This is the Rich Eisen Show.
In Cutler!
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
The director of Hoosiers and Rudy, David Anspaugh, here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Available now on the Rich Eisen Show app.
With me saying how much fake Rudy is. Hoosiers? None of that happened! Is that what you're saying?
Today's guests from NBC Sports, Peter King, ESPN MMA journalist Ariel Helwani, plus from Disney's Artemis Fowl, actor Josh Gad. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Well, hey, everybody. Rich Eisen here at the desk of the Rich Eisen Show studios in Los Angeles, California. Pleased that you are with us here in this June of 2020. My guys across the way are at their usual post. TJ Jefferson walking past Chris Brockman and Mike Del Tufo. Good to see you all.
Hey, buddy.
What's happening? Three of you gentlemen here today.
How's the weekend?
Got through it.
Got through it.
How about you?
Same.
Got through it.
Got through it.
We're all through it, and we're hoping everybody who's joining us here today is happy, healthy, and safe, and this crazy spinning off its axis world. Hey, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, Major League Baseball. My buddy Carl Ravitch at the worldwide leader in sports, first to have it. A new proposal has been put on the table by baseball management to the players. Some movement, essentially.
A little bit.
Well, here's the deal. I'll read it off the screen here. Carl Ravitch, by the way, whose avatar is a pug, Mike. I think that's near and dear to your heart right there. I don't know if that's Doug the pug, but it looks like it's his pug.
I'll have to do some research.
This story, this tweet needed a nice splash of adorableness, and I appreciate Carl's avatar providing it. MLB has made its proposal to players 75% prorated salary. 75% prorated salary. 76 game season, playoff pool money, no draft pick compensation for signing player, which is first time in 45 years apparently that would happen. And that's good for free agents. Season finishes the 27th of September. Postseason ends at end of October. Significant move towards players' demands and effort to play more. Now, the players wanted 114 games and to be paid for their entire salary, which was about 70% of what they would be paid this year. Baseball has a backstop of a 48-game season that is not nearly as long as anybody would like, but they have that ability to just say, throw their hands up and say, there's 48 games, you players are going to get paid 30% of your salaries. And I said, well, let's figure out what the middle is. This sounds like the middle, except for the fact that it's not 100% prorated salaries, which is what players believe they negotiated for in March, and is still, despite the fact that there's no fans, despite they can't figure out on a length of a season, they say that we agree to 100% prorated salaries. Let's just figure out the number of games. You cut us that check. And owners are clearly not up for doing it or think they have the right to not do that this is what they're trying to do is a good faith negotiation based off of what they had in March, and players apparently are still thinking March is what is March. We said 100% prorated salaries. You're giving us 75% prorated salaries right now. It ain't the 100%, and I'm assuming that is what is behind John Heyman, baseball insider for MLB Network. His latest tweet, initial reaction of players to MLB proposal, not thrilled with it, not at all. So I'm assuming that's what it is. You know, when you're reading everything together, this does appear to be the middle. It's the middle number of games.
Yep.
Okay, players, you wanted 100 and a million, and we can give 50, you 48.
Right. Yeah.
So, what's kind of in the middle is 76, and apparently, according to John Heyman, the date that this would begin would be July 10th. So July 4th is now officially out the window. Hey, everybody, it's time to celebrate America's birthday. Here's the old national pastime just for you, just in time. July 4th, everybody. Great PR situation. Well, that's now shot that in the foot. That's done. I guess it won't matter that it's not July 4th if it can be July 10th, but this needs to be done pretty damn fast if it's July 10th. John Heyman also saying the baseball offer is for a 25% pay cut for players rather than the 40% previously. Also not a sliding scale. Players preferred to avoid the sliding scale progressive cut in Major League Baseball. Listen, and what that meant, again, is what we heard in the initial offering that what Jeff Passan of ESPN, Carl's colleague, called repulsive, right?
Yes.
An offer that they knew would be considered repulsive, which is, hey, we'll just, here's your pay cut, and we'll just figure it out for you. Guys who make a poop ton, you get a ton off. And the guys who don't make that much, you get the smallest amount sliced off. And players viewed that as trying to split the haves and have-nots and make the rich guys look like they're, really selfish when the little guys in the sport need their help to actually make an end meet or something like that, I guess. Didn't mean to come on by basically saying, hey, baseball's still out. But they're still out.
At least it looks like they're trying.
Well, yes, that's true. Will the players give anything off of the fact that they want 100% of their prorated salaries? That you said in March, we will pay you your prorated salaries when we figure out what's going on for the number of games that are played. Baseball is apparently saying the circumstances of March are different now. We need to figure out something different now. Players are saying no, and Scott Boras is telling his players the reason why baseball wants that money back now isn't because of the circumstances on the ground due to COVID and the gate. It's really about their debt service and how much they're in the hole based on everything outside of the baseball business of running a club, and they're asking you for a loan. I think I'm getting that. I'm getting that all right now. So again, we're all excited. We want them. Here's a new proposal, and the players don't like it. And I'm sure the owners will essentially say, "Well, when are you going to give? What are you going to give here?" And I guess their answer is, to use the Wrath of Khan phrase, eat static. Right? Isn't that what he told?
I was on this weekend, Rich.
Oh, baby, was it. I'm still also reeling in the loss of last week.
So many L's.
I mean,
I finished last week on a consecutive losing streak that was particularly difficult for me to handle. Especially just I going in my mind about Hoosiers being my favorite sports movie, and Rudy I dislike intensely, and that is because of the Michigan Wolverine helmet that's right here in front of me. It is a nice movie. I understand it's well acted, well written, same director and writer as Hoosiers.
very factual.
And I thought it was the first, that was the sports movie where the phrase based on a true story, that based was doing the most heavy lifting possible in the history of
As we show the
sports
picture
films, as
of
we're showing
Rudy.
the photograph of Rudy being carried off the field by about 5 guys, right?
Well,
There's a lot of
couple,
there's a lot of Golden Domers milling about. You also can't hear if the chant of Rudy is really coming from
It's a still photograph, so
damn near
yes.
100,000 strong. And the director, David Onspach, coming on and saying, compared to other sports movies, Rudy is like a Ken Burns documentary. And then I decided to wade into the waters of, well, what about Hoosiers? And he described Hoosiers, again, my favorite sports movie of all time, being based on a true story. Yes, Mile and High, a small town in Indiana, winning the state championship despite having a small town and a small town team. And nothing else happened. There was nothing particularly dramatic about the way they went about it. There was no overcoming of odds.
That
and
was pretty boring.
The coach was not somebody who had a sketchy past trying to seek redemption for himself and then falling in love with a teacher in town whose ward was the best player in town who wasn't playing until the coach came to town and he was backing the coach's play, even though the rest of the town wasn't.
Rich.
All made up.
Our guest the third hour?
Yes.
His character was more true than the movie.
Well,
vision.
and again, we'll get to that in a second, Mike. Mike, let me drive the bus here, okay? You just push the buttons on this one, all right? I know you're feeling great.
He tried. He's trying.
I'm trying.
He's like the MLB owners.
I know you
trying.
got your Olaf there, and again, Josh Gad's on the program. But I took tons of losses. Heard about it from some friends. Heard about it. Very difficult for me. But we'll get through it. Hey, Conor McGregor is becoming the Brett Favre of the fight game, looks like.
Somebody posted
How many times did Favre retire and unretire?
Meme over the weekend.
Huh?
Someone did the Spider-Man meme of Conor McGregor and Brett Favre.
Oh, pointing each other?
Yeah.
Tweeted out a photograph of him and his mom.
I mean, what are we doing?
And Conor said he's decided to retire from fighting. This is the third time, correct?
Yeah, third time.
Got it. And basically told his mom he loves her and pick out a house. So it's kind of like that Goodfellas scene. Pick out something nice, Karen.
Yeah.
No. It's right there.
No,
go,
just
go.
right
No,
down,
it's
just
right there.
turn
Go
down,
pick
just
out a
turn right
dress.
down.
There, I got to hold them. No, go. Just go.
Yeah.
Third time in 4 years. UFC 250 goes down, and biggest story is a guy who didn't even fight in it.
Once again.
Ariel Helwani will join us. And, again, all eyes on the sports that are going about their business. NASCAR with another race. IndyCar returns. Scott Dixon won in the state of Texas over the weekend.
Buddy Scott Dixon.
So you changed tires for him, right?
I did.
and the tire stayed on the car?
Unconfirmed.
Okay, unconfirmed. Years ago. So we're all just looking at how sports are handling their business because we all want it to succeed. We all want it to all succeed. Gosh darn it, every show like this one, we should be talking about what? We should be getting ready for the Belmont Stanks, right?
Yep.
Coming up.
Golf is back this week.
Golf is back this
Premier
week.
League, I think, is back this week.
Exactly.
Stanks.
Right. So we should have been talking about all this stuff and mini camps of the NFL and how's Tua looking.
Ooh.
Right? How's Tua looking? What's going on with Justin Herbert? How's Stid?
He's throwing with Edelman.
And then, of course, up in New England. And then, of course, the Chicago Bears quarterback room. We should be doing all that. So we're just looking at every sport to see how they are faring in the world of COVID-19. Has anybody tested positive yet for the UFC, and would we even know?
Dana White has been very defiant in all of his comments, so I doubt we would ever find out.
Ariel Helwani, top of our final hour today. And then Josh Gad will join us, as Mike Del Tufo pointed out. Lots to talk about with Josh Gad. He's a diehard Miami sports fan. He's got a Disney fantasy and adventure film called Artemis Fowl that's coming out this very Friday. Central Park is also a musical sitcom that premiered a couple of Fridays ago on Apple TV Plus, and he has been absolutely dynamite on a YouTube stream. Have you seen what he has done?
I've heard about
in
this.
Getting casts and crew to reunite and read scripts and go down memory lane. He got the casts of Goonies to all come back and read a script. Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, and Splash. He got Tom Hanks to zoom in with Ron Howard to talk Splash.
That's crazy.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Next up for him apparently is a Ghostbusters reunion.
Oh. Funny you should bring that up.
Why?
That's our poll today, Rich.
Okay.
Ghostbusters released today in 1984.
How about
Great
that?
year.
Now, here's where we're going a little twist. Also released today in 1983. Trading Places.
Oh my goodness
So
gracious.
here we got two polls for you. throwing them out. We're just getting right to it. First one. You roll up to a movie theater. You're like, I'm going to go see a movie tonight. You roll up to this theater, only has 2 screens. Playing on the screens. Trading Places, Ghostbusters. You only have time to go see one. Which are you going to see?
That's no problem for me. I will not put my finger on the scale because you don't like to do it.
Next.
With me.
Who has had the better post-Saturday Night Live career?
Bill Murray or Eddie Murray?
Bill Murray.
I mean, Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murray had a great
Major League career. Hall of Fame.
Eddie Murphy, right.
Eddie Murphy.
Post-SNL career, Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray. So you roll up into a theater, only got time to see one. Trading Places, Ghostbusters. Which one do you buy your ticket for? Better post-SNL career.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy,
Well,
Bill Murray.
we'll bring this up with Josh Gad. And I cannot wait to ask Josh Gad, who is the oldest Olaf fan he's ever come across? Who is the oldest, most diehard fan of Olaf he's ever come across? How old are you, Mike? Just so we can
54.
Okay. Has he ever come across a 54-year-old man who will tell him, I've got a million Olafs at home. I got Olaf.
Don't you have like a 5-foot tall one?
Yeah, I have like
You got a 5-foot tall one. You brought a small one. You also have one of those, like,
I got a coffee
cookie
mug.
jars, right?
I got
You
a
can
mug.
open up the top and you got it all.
Got them all. Yeah.
Can't wait to creep
Olaf's in my
Josh Gad
car.
out that way.
In the back seat.
That's going to be
But
great.
you brought the 5-footer in your car?
There's a little Olaf in my back seat, sitting in the cup holder.
I thought you have the 5-footer like in the passenger
No.
seat.
Oh
you
my
can drive
God,
in the
no, no,
HOV
no, no,
lane.
that's
Yeah,
freaky.
the HOV
You can
lane.
drive in the HOV
It's a great
lane.
idea, though. I do like that.
844-204-RICH, number to dial here today. First up, though, is going to be Steve Wyche and then Peter King after him, because there was a seismic shift within the corridors of the home office of the National Football League, which, by the way, came out today with some health protocols on opening up team facilities for players when they return. I haven't seen them yet. They hit, I guess, the open air on Twitter about 5 minutes before we went on the air, and I haven't read them all yet. So the league's opening up, but in terms of opening up, the league, where in 2016 and 2017, there was such a to-do, which is the nicest way to put it, about Kaepernick taking a knee and other players taking a knee and what to do about it and how to handle the pressure that was being placed upon it by the President of the United States. You know, I'm not going to tell any tales out of school. That's exactly what was happening at the time. And so, you know, put it all together, and the last thing I thought I would ever see would be a video of the commissioner of the National Football League that was put out on Friday. And the 1-2, if you will, punch of this happening after the video that we played last week of the players getting together, some very famous players getting together, apparently with the help of an NFL social media group employee reaching out to say, we want to help. We being some of us who work with the NFL and not seeing enough being done by the league to stand by the players and the cause that's happening right now in the streets of America and around the world. Apparently, Michael Thomas was reached out by a member of the NFL media group and said, we're interested. And then that video came out of them saying, on behalf of the NFL, we are all George Floyd. What if I was George Floyd? And this is what we want the league to say. Say Black Lives Matter. Say that they made a mistake in not listening to players years ago. And the commissioner put this video up.
It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, Black people in our country. First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much-needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family.
And how that video came about is something that Peter King wrote about in his Football Morning in America column today. And Peter will be joining us first up on the NBC hour, an hour from now. Also, this video was apparently either shot before there was a league-wide NFL employee teleconference, a video conference that took place during our show, Chris. So obviously I was here, but it was apparently a very emotional video conference with the commissioner, who heard quite a bit from members of the NFL employee community. And joining me here to talk about all of that, with the backdrop being later on in the evening, Drew Brees tweeting at President Trump that Brees' earlier stance in the week that he took with Yahoo Finance that created such a to-do, again, within his own locker room, that he apologized for it twice because it indicated that he did not listen to his teammates years ago during everything that happened with kneeling and protesting and trying to cause more attention to be paid to the cause that's now spilling into the streets of our world, that Trump was using that to raise money, actually, for his campaign, saying Drew Brees, who he tweeted at, to say, well done. Everyone should stand up for the flagging, and not listening to what the players are trying to bring attention to and what protesters are trying to bring attention to. Brees tweets back at Donald Trump, talking about, through my ongoing conversations with friends, teammates, and leaders in the Black community, I realize this is not an issue about the American flag. It never has been. We can no longer use the flag to turn people away or distract them from the real issues that face our Black communities. We did this back in 2017, and regretfully, I brought it back with my comments this week. We must stop talking about the flag and shift our attention to the real issues of systemic racial injustice, economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's history. If not now, then when? We as a white community need to listen and learn from the pain and suffering of our Black communities. We must acknowledge the problems, identify the solutions, and then put this into action. The Black community cannot do it alone. This will require all of us. And Drew Brees saying, hey, everybody just watch me step by step from here on out. Be a man of action. Holy cow. Was that a first step for Drew Brees? Joining us now to talk about all of it is my colleague from the NFL Media Group, who first noticed Colin Kaepernick sitting during the national anthem in a preseason game in 2016. My buddy, Steve Wyche. How are you, Steve?
I'm great, Rich. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. Were you on that? You were on that video conference, right, on Friday, for league employees. Can you walk everybody through what you were willing to share from that?
Yeah, I mean, myself and MJ Acosta actually moderated the panel.
Okay, then.
So we were really kind of the drivers of some of the discussion. There were three panelists there. There were three panelists, experts in different forms of race and society and things like this. So without giving away too much, because it was an in-house meeting, Roger Goodell came on and addressed all the employees on the call. And he stated, the league was going to do certain things, this and that. And he came back and told us that he would be dropping the video that we now saw a little bit later in the day and what that meant. But he did not disclose some of the things in there, such as, they support, Black Lives Matter. They addressed everything that the players had addressed in their video. But, Rich, this meeting was like nothing I'd ever experienced in terms of it very much resembled what's going on in the streets. It was young people, the young employees of the NFL, telling a lot of their pain, addressing on how they felt neglected by the NFL in-house as employees. And they were speaking directly to the commissioner and all of the executives on the call. I mean, it was, I'm 54 years old now, and I'm looking back at myself saying, man, I was 25 where I have the stones to speak to the big boss like these people did. It was jarring, it was moving, it was inspirational, and trust me, it got the attention of a lot of people, not just me, but the shot callers in the NFL, the NFL Network, and NFL Films. And, I think by the time that call ended, 90 minutes or 2 hours later, I don't think I got up out of the chair I was sitting in for 30 minutes.
No kidding.
Rich, I was exhausted. I was inspired. It was like, what are we about to see here? Because there was, you have this sense of, is something really going to happen? Like, you feel like something may really happen. Like, so many times in American history when we've had flashpoints like this. Think back to 2016, the year the Cap sat down for the national anthem. Well, preceding that were the shooting deaths of so many unarmed black men by police. It was very similar. There were people in the streets, not as loud as here, but it went away. And now we're back here. And that cycle's happened so many times in American history. But from what I'm seeing, when I got off that call, I'm like, something may actually freaking happen. And it was really, in terms of the NFL, you could see that this was not something that was done by giving owners a heads up. This was like Roger Goodell and the NFL taking care of its own house. And that's something a lot of times we don't see, Rich. You and I both know this. A lot of things are done for the approval of 32 owners. How can we pacify all 32? Or at least a majority of them. This was, how can we pacify the people who work for this organization? Not pacify, but address the people who work for this organization before we even start spreading our wings. So it's the first time, I think, some real housekeeping took place as to where the needle might actually be moved.
Steve Wyche, my colleague from the NFL Media Group here on the Rich Eisen Show. So have you spoken to any players over the weekend to see how the commissioner's video landed, Steve?
I have. And I will say the majority of it is still like, let's wait and see. But I think for some of them, hearing him say, the NFL would not exist without its black players. Yeah, it may seem obvious, but for it to come from his lips when in so many previous years, including in the previous weeks, they didn't hear this, they were like, okay, let's see. I still think there is, judging the people I spoke to, this hidden fear, hopelessness that their own particular owners may come in and squat on things. And that's where I think the next layer of this is going to be. Because we haven't heard from too many owners. We've heard from Jed York. We've seen statements, but we haven't heard anything since Roger Goodell said what he said. And so I think a lot of these teams, like, okay, Roger Goodell said this, but my owner has told me to toe the line. And so if I go out and do something that goes against this, what could be the potential backlash? Because let's not forget, Colin Kaepernick does not have a job. And everybody in the NFL has seen that, recognized it, and knows it. for taking his stance. I think the players feel emboldened, but I do think there's also that little bit of fear that because we do not have guaranteed contracts like NBA players, that there could also be some type of repercussion.
So what is the deal with Kaepernick? Do you think that this does, and I'll ask this of Peter King later on, do you think that this does lead to a team being able to feel comfortable with whatever, I guess, Joe Lockhart put into a piece for CNN a couple weeks ago, talking about his tenure with the NFL, that some teams might be concerned about a financial and or season ticket base holder backlash when we're seeing what's happening in the streets now, and we're seeing how it wasn't about the anthem, never was, and not about the flag, never was. It was about bringing attention to what clearly has a lot of people's attention in a manner that we've never seen before, like that video from Commissioner Roger Goodell. I mean, any possibility that Kaepernick does get a gig now?
I mean, I think there's a possibility. Rich, if you're Colin Kaepernick, and let's just say some team, let's just say the New York Jets call you and say, Cap, we want to bring you in. Wouldn't it feel patronizing? You've had 3 years to already do this. And now there's this uproar like, now let's make our move for Cap, who hasn't had an opportunity to play for 3 seasons. So I would think if I'm him, I'm looking at this cynically. And he's looked at a lot of things cynically. We saw that last year with the workout in Atlanta where he didn't trust a lot of the things that the NFL was trying to do for him. So maybe a team reaches out. Is it genuine, though? Is it just something to show a gesture? I mean, I think those are legitimate questions anyone would have to ask, because all of these teams know that Cap was better than a lot of people that have come through the NFL in those 3 seasons, and they did not give him a chance. But now that there's this seeming sea change in the country and in the NFL, then now you reach out to him. I just really don't know, and I don't know if he would be interested right now, because again, it does seem very patronizing if a team would step out. But maybe if he still wants to play, maybe he'll say, "What the hell, patronizing or not, I'm going to go show I can do this."
Yeah, because at some point, I mean, when would the right time be, ever? If not, I guess again, you tell me, because I as you know, talking to you off air and on air, and I'm loath to make a statement, about what someone should do. I'm the 50-year-old, soon to be 51-year-old white Jewish guy, who's never been profiled behind the wheel of a car, et cetera, so on and so forth. So at some point, though, does it, shouldn't he be back in the NFL? I mean, he should. He's good enough.
That point
Steve.
should have been 2017. I mean, there's a whole lot of woulda, shoulda, couldas here. But again, we're entering now 4 years. We are on the verge. We are 2 months away from 4 years from him not standing for the national anthem, and 3 years from him taking a snap in the NFL. So if he truly wants to play like he says he does, and a team comes calling, even if you're looking at it cynically, this is an opportunity. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So it'll be very interesting. After being at that workout fiasco in Atlanta last year, where the league had 25 teams there, and there were, because I was there, and then he decides to work out at an alternate site, which basically left 7 or 8 teams there to watch him work out. He says he wants to play. He says he wants to do this. He says he's training. We haven't heard from Cap, other than some things he's retweeted and posted on social media. But I honestly don't know where his head is, and I don't know what a team would do right now. We see that almost all these teams have got their quarterback roster set. Cam Newton doesn't have a job right now. So are you going to sign Cap over Cam? I mean, it's just going to be an interesting situation for a team to see which direction they head to. I honestly don't think it's going to happen, but maybe it does. And if it does, is it genuine? That's a big, cartoon bubble I have over my head, just filled with cynicism.
Steve Wyche here on the Rich Eisen Show. When you saw him sitting from the press box, that was in Santa Clara, right? You're sitting in the press box
Yes,
in
it
Santa
was.
Clara. You're looking down, national anthem. You see number 7 taking a seat. You went up to him after the game. What did he say to you when you asked him?
Well, I mean, look, the whole I had a whole game to stew on this, Rich, and I've told this before. You know, I was thinking, man, all summer long, I saw on social media he was really getting into Black Lives Matter. He was really finding a public voice about police brutality, and so I'm thinking this is going on. So I approached him, just basically like, is this what you sitting was about? And he's like, absolutely. He's like, we have black men, unarmed black men, getting killed by police. And there's dead bodies laying in the streets while these police officers are getting unpaid leave or even paid leave. I think he said paid leave. So it's the same thing. The same thing Cap said in 2016 is the same thing we're saying right now. That's the same message. Nothing has changed except for the years. And it came at a time in an election cycle. Same scenario. And it's almost like you sit back like he told us. Here we are again. But it seems, Rich, I think because we didn't hear this outburst for Ahmaud Arbery earlier this summer or Breonna Taylor, but I think so many people, because of the COVID, we're home, we have no distraction, and seeing George Floyd call out for his mother while this police officer has his knee on his neck, looking at the sky like he's imagining sunsets in Jamaica, struck a chord that, wow, this is real. This really does happen. We know we've heard people say, but it really does happen. And that's why I think we're seeing so many white people and Latino people and Native people and Asian people protest and cry out, whereas before a lot of those voices and advocates were not there. So again, it feels like something is different. We'll see if anything changes, but it feels like there really is a movement, taking hold.
A few more minutes left with Steve Wyche, my colleague from NFL Network and NFL Media Group here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what does change look like if, Kaepernick, I guess, as you say, would be viewed, him being offered a gig could be viewed by him and so many others as a platitude, just as just an empty gesture based on the history. So then what is being about it, the step-by-step being about it that we talked about, Drew Brees actually using his platform to stop, and what he was hoping for, the politicizing of what we absolutely feel is going to happen coming up this fall, should there be national anthems shown, because there won't be any fans potentially. That's, I guess, for another day down the road. What happens? What's the change? Is when will be players be given the platform to protest, and all 32 owners will be like, sure, including, you mentioned the Jets. I mean, the Jets are owned by the current ambassador to the UK for this current administration. I mean, let's be honest here. There are going to be some owners that may not see the situation in the manner in which Drew Brees now sees it and the commissioner now sees it. What does change look like, Steve?
Well, it's to me, I think it's going to come in a variety of forms. Sure, there may be public change, such as some owners allowing players to take a knee, fan dissatisfaction be damned. Other owners are not going to like it. They know their markets. But it also could come more subtly. Besides the league, the leagues put money into a lot of things, right? But if some of these players, the Malcolm Jenkins of the world we know about, but if some other players, the Pat Mahomes of the world, if they start doing things to help change the restructuring of their local police departments. If they help with the de-escalation tactics and things like this, it's happening some places. The Players Coalition has helped change several laws in different states to help juvenile delinquents and the court system. I think it all depends on the player, or if it all depends on the team, what they want to do. But if there's sincere change to what they want to target for a certain NFL team, maybe it's looking at their hiring practices. And instead of having, a person of color in this department, well, maybe, adding another one in another department. I think, to me, that comes with all workplaces and a lot of things in society. I think it's going to be on different levels to how we view different things. Rich, you look at this COVID case. It's the COVID pandemic. It's affecting black and brown people disproportionately to white people. So maybe some of these players or teams say, okay, maybe we start something healthcare-wise or food and nutrition-wise in our communities to maybe level the scales, to do things to decrease blood pressure in so many people and things like that. So I think it could take different forms on the football field and off the football field. But clearly there's so many levels of the leveling that need to take place. We'll see who's about it. We'll see who's really into it, and we'll see who's just all about the flashy PR statement to make them feel better about themselves.
Before I let you go, Steve Wyche, I give you the floor as a Howard University graduate. The passing of Ken Riley at the age of 72, three-time Pro Bowler and Florida A&M great. I saw your tweet about his passing, and I give you the floor on to who he was and what you want to say about him. Steve.
Well, thanks for that, Rich. I've known Ken for a while. He's a member of the Black College Football Hall of Fame. For those who don't know, that's a Hall of Fame that recognizes players who went to black colleges. I've known Ken. Quiet man, very astute, scholarly man. He was a finalist in college for a Rhodes Scholarship. Was a great player for the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people say he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame at the time of his retirement. He was fourth all-time in interceptions behind three Hall of Famers. But more importantly, he was a coach and athletic director at Florida A&M, and he shaped the lives of so many young men who have gone on to become very productive members of the society, great leaders. That is as important as anything he ever did on the football field. So rest in peace, Ken Riley. Those of us who know you are hurt. Those who didn't are affected, and hopefully one day, as Peter King wrote in his column today, as he gets into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a member of the senior committee, because he's very deserving, and a lot of the people he played with and against will tell you as much.
Steve, you're one of the best. I love being able to call you a friend, and I look forward to a playing season. There's going to be one, right? I mean, this is going to go. This season's going to go.
It really
right?
looks like it, Rich. It looks like it's going to go. It looks like it's going to go off on schedule. I think the only question now is, will there be fans, and if so, how many? And you're the best, and I really appreciate you having me on, Rich, and I do treasure having you as a friend as well.
I appreciate you saying that because, it does feel like things are changing. It does feel like things are different. It does feel like things are changing for the better. And I know, again, you have been literally having a front row seat on this part of the NFL story from the very beginning, and I wanted to have you on. Certainly, I did not know you and MJ had moderated that panel on Friday. I was sitting here on the show, and I heard nothing but amazing things about it, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything.
Well, thanks again, Rich.
You're the man. That's Steve Wyche. Follow him on Twitter at Wyche89. I follow him on Twitter. You should as well. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Again, I'll tell you what, man. Brees saying, watch my actions. You hear people say, watch my actions. You're like, okay, I'll watch your actions. Let's see how you go about it. Well, his first step was a large one, big one, filled with cojones and making it count. Wow. So I tip my cap to him, and we'll repeat it again. Peter King will be joining us on this show coming up in the first slot on NBC SN. We're on from 1 to 3 Eastern every single day. Ariel Helwani after him, Josh Gad, as we'll have a little bit of fun with Josh. 844-204-RICH, number to dial here, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. For all you folks out there in the wormhole, all you 454s, you want to have a conversation, we can have one. Let me get first up here. First up, Steve in Houston. Let's take your phone call here on the Geico Fan Hotline. What's up, Steve?
Hey, big fan of the show and everything, Rich.
Thank you.
I remember when Ken Riley played back in the early 70s and everything. They had a heck of a team, and Dick LeBeau, I believe, was on that team, and they just had some great players. But I know what you mean about your pain and everything. About me being a Raider fan, we've had to deal with immaculate deception. We thought that was done. And then we had to deal with a tuck game, and then we had to deal with John Gruden's Tampa Bay team and him doing the booyah and everything, and the way we melted down because they refused to change the game plan going into that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I definitely feel your pain, brother.
I hear you. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. I remember that. Rod Woodson told me that story, by the way, about the game plan that word has it, the game plan before that Super Bowl, the one that took place in San Diego between Tampa and the Raiders.
Yeah.
That they had the game plan and Al Davis switched it up like 2 days before, day before, and
Oof.
that was all she wrote.
Yeah, that was also the controversial, the stuff around Bear Robbins kind of going AWOL.
Dude.
Like that Friday night right before the game.
Correct, that he was gone.
Their starting center just disappeared.
Could you imagine if that happened today?
Oh, man.
In this day and age with Twitter, and there'd probably be video of him crossing the border and
Sure.
him video
In
of him
Tijuana or wherever he ended
being
up.
out and about.
Yeah, totally. It would be crazy.
All right, what's our poll question results currently right now?
Okay. Big movie day. 2 massive hits released a year apart. 1983, Trading Places. 1984, Ghostbusters. So they're both playing at a theater. You only have time to see one. Which one are you choosing to see? Which one are you buying your ticket for? Right now, Ghostbusters, 55-45 right now. So then our secondary poll there is about Eddie Murphy and Bill Murray. Who has had the best post-Saturday Night Live career? Now, I'm really surprised this is not as close as it should be. Right now, 61-39 say Bill Murray. Thought that'd be a little closer.
If I could see one film, just Ghostbusters or Trading Places,
Yeah.
I'd see Trading Places. Dan Aykroyd in both, by the way.
Because you're in it?
Isn't Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters as well?
Dan Aykroyd is both, yeah.
Oh, okay, so
I just mean you look like a
I look
young
more-
Rich Eisen looks like
young Rich Eisen looks
like a young Dan Aykroyd.
like young Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, Last Dance. Rich Eisen looks like Dr. Detroit Dan Aykroyd.
I mean, both phenomenal movies, like top 10, 15 comedies all time.
Although, you know, when the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man shows up towards the end of that film,
Ghostbusters.
taking over the entire city of New York, spoiler alert,
Nobody steps on the church in my town.
is that he dreamt of, he thought about being around a campfire, right?
Yeah.
At Camp Loconda.
That's your camp, right?
It's my camp.
Yeah.
We all flipped out.
By the way,
That was my first ever. I don't know who wrote it. Did Harold Ramis write that?
Right, Ghostbusters?
I was
Because
just
you know
looking
he's
at that actually.
Harold. Just so everyone understands,
He was
the Ghostbusters in Ghostbusters were Bill Murray,
Reitman and
Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, the actor Ernie Hudson,
Right.
and And the fourth Ghostbuster was Harold Ramis.
Now, John Belushi was rumored had he
not died.
He was going to be in that, yeah.
Dan and Harold wrote that
Yep.
together
Okay.
with Ivan Reitman.
With Ivan.
directing.
Yeah.
Okay, Harold Ramis, so everyone understands.
Genius.
Harold Ramis wrote Stripes. Harold Ramis wrote Caddyshack. Harold Ramis directed, wrote, and had a little cameo in Groundhog Day. He's one of the all-time greats. And was around so much and was so integral in some of these great comedies in Stripes. Mike Mayock would even know who he was. Bringing it all full circle with the Raiders.
He wrote Animal House.
Did he really write Animal House too?
Meatballs, Back to School.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Back to School.
Analyze
is a
This.
Yeah, the
great
Analyze
movie.
This movies. Analyze This and that.
yeah.
Both of them. Yeah, Harold Ramis, genius. So funny.
He wrote Back to School also. Thornton Mellon, The
Yeah.
Triple Indy.
Yeah.
Call Me When You Have No Class. Dean Martin.
I can't lie to you, Dean Martin.
I mean,
Where
Back to School is
where his son needs to write a paper, so he has Kurt Vonnegut show up to his dorm room door where he's at a hot
and he
tub.
gets like a
No.
C or something on the paper.
he has to write it, and then Kurt, and he gets mad because, remember the guy says,
So he gets mad at Vonnegut
Vonnegut.
because he wrote a paper about himself and got like a C.
See,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very funny.
I mean,
And while we're going down this wormhole right now, his son's roommate, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
A very, very young Robert Downey Jr. Way pre-Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr.
And isn't Billy Zabka, he's the villain in that movie?
yes.
Yeah.
The big guy.
The Triple Indy.
The other diver.
The other diver.
Back to School, underrated movie. Really
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
Phenomenal.
Oh
Really
my gosh.
funny.
But if you had to if
Grand Lakes.
if you had to name
University.
your favorite
Right.
Rodney Dangerfield movie though,
Oh.
I've got it
It's
easy.
Caddyshack.
No.
See, I like Easy Money.
Easy Money.
I'm a Caddyshack
I'm with
guy.
Rich. Easy Money.
Easy
is
Money,
great.
shot in Staten Island, New York, my
Yep.
hometown. Speaking of
Joe
which, Judd
Pesci.
Apatow's new movie, King of Staten Island, he's coming on Wednesday to talk about it.
Joe Pesci in that.
Joe Pesci was in that. He was. And, we drove around Staten Island all the time, obviously growing up there. There was a diner in Staten Island where we would always joke because the sign said open 23 hours a day.
Yes.
And we were all
What's
like,
the 1 hour?
I forget, where's the
5
1
to
hour?
6 a.m. I'm joking.
And they
That's what it
must
is.
have on for that film done, I guess what do you call it, a remote shoot? They did a remote scout. Thank you, Don. They did a remote scout, saw the diner, and made a quick scene out of it where Rodney Dangerfield and Joe Pesci are walking up to the diner and the lights go right out on them. It's the 1 hour where they're not open.
That's funny.
And we all love that. The bad guy in that movie is also
Yes.
the bad guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rooney.
Rooney.
Yep.
That guy was in every 80s movie. it
Well,
seemed like.
also Deadwood, too. Nice return. Oh, man. Didn't think we'd be going down that wormhole here. So we're waiting to see, is baseball going to come back? It's not looking too good today. Jeff Passan, we got the latest from Passan. Easiest way to look at Major League Baseball's current offer. Best case, the players would receive $1.432 billion. A 57-game season at full pro rata salaries would be $1.4319 billion. Factoring the lack of draft comp, estimated worth $50 to $100 million would move it from 59 to 61 games full pro rata. So what are we talking about here? So
Just figure it out, man.
So 59 to 61 games right now. What baseball's at? What 77?
76 games. Steve.
76.
Yeah. 76.
So we're now just 17 games off and have to figure out the math. Can we just go in the middle right there, and the players will take a little bit more of a haircut from what they did in March? I guess it's easy for me to say. And then the owners will just eat a little bit more. Watch. And some players, you'll just say, I don't want to do it. Which basketball player might be the first to do that? Are they going to be all in?
Someone brought up a good point on Twitter. Everything's kind of shrunk, right? Is Kawhi going to play back-to-backs?
Oh, gosh.
He hasn't played a back-to-back game since 2017.
Load management in the shortened season.
He hasn't played a back-to-back in 3 years. So suddenly now he's going to play a back-to-back because the season is jammed into 3 months or 2 months?
Maybe not in those 8 games, I guess. But for the playoffs, when it's like a playoffs, yeah.
Still haven't heard from him. It's been 4 months. Not a peep from Kawhi.
Nothing, right?
Nobody knows where he
Nobody
is.
There's no Instagram, no does he even have an Instagram?
If he does, it doesn't get used.
Yeah, he's been quiet.
Nothing.
Nothing. Haven't even seen him.
All right. So if you want to have a phone conversation with us, 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Peter King, Ariel Helwani, and Josh Gad are part of our NBC SN final 2 hours of the show. I want to thank Steve Wyche. That was a great conversation. Everyone should follow him, Wyche at Wyche89, as he keeps everybody up to speed on what's going on in the NFL and certainly with what's going on in the rest of the world in the NFL right now. Peter King has more on that front when he joins us. And then Ariel Helwani, what happened over this weekend at UFC 250 and Conor McGregor, and what is happening with that sport, essentially. And then the very funny and talented and wonderful Josh Gad as he joins us on the cusp of in summer. Don't go anywhere. First up, celebrity true or false with Boban. True or false, you eat soup every single day. Is that true?
Yes, true.
Why is that?
Yeah, because it's a big deal in my country, soup, and we eat soup every time. This is like when you're growing up, you say, hey, first you start your meal with the soup, and after that you can eat whatever you like.
Okay.
It's not basically it's like how we do. Like when you eat soup, like basically you feel like you're healthy because like a little bit full your stomach, and like you're not hungry too much.
So do you at some point during the day? Oh, you know what? I haven't eaten soup yet. I need to have my soup.
Yes.
You have had that.
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite soup?
Butternut squash, chicken noodle soup, tomato soup, mushroom soup, everything like.
Okay. Have you thought about making your own line of soup? Boban soup.
Boban soup. No, like this is a good idea. I will think about that.
Here, let's pound that out.
I will think about
that out. Very good.
I will think about it.
Next one for Boban. Celebrity true or false with Boban.
False.
You do not like you do not like cake. You do not like cake.
No cakes. Not big fan.
Why? What's wrong
no
with cake?
cakes. I like small desserts. Like if I eat something, I will eat like something like really like to enjoy because small desserts.
Did you get? They're all small. Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, no, they're all small to you. Everything.
So if I have you over for dinner, soup, Nutella crepe.
Yes.
Okay, that's
easy.
That's a combination. That's very simple.
This like couple bucks, nothing more, nothing too much.
Last one for you, Boban. True or false? You love to shake hands. Is that true?
But like to be honest, people more like to shake my hands than like to shake. Every time every time like when somebody come to me, like I just come from the restroom, I wash my hands, I ready to eat food, and I was like walking like this. I hope somebody not shake my hands, and that time like somebody comes, hey, how are you? And I was like, how are you?
That's when you go with the fist pound, right there.
Yeah, I know. I know.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
In Cutler!
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
The director of Hoosiers and Rudy, David Honspaw, here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Available now on the Rich Eisen Show app.
With me saying how much fake Rudy is, Hoosiers? None of that happened? Is that what you're saying?
Today's guests from NBC Sports, Peter King, ESPN MMA journalist Ariel Helwani, plus from Disney's Artemis Fowl, actor Josh Gad. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show on NBCSN. We're thrilled to be here every day from 1 to 3 Eastern Time. We had a fascinating conversation last hour in our first YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show streaming hour. We say hello to, again, all those 454s, as they like to be called in our chat room, that they like to be called the Wormhole. We say hello to our Sirius XM Channel 211 listeners. Who heard Steve Wyche, my colleague from the NFL Media Group, join me to give a little bit more of information on a Friday early afternoon Eastern Time and morning, right in the middle of our second hour of our 3-hour show on Friday. The commissioner of the NFL having a league-wide, employee-wide conversation via video conference that Steve co-hosted with MJ Acosta, another colleague of mine at the NFL Media Group, on what's going on in the world. And Steve's recounting of it is also part of Peter King's Football Morning in America column that he posted this morning. And Peter will be joining us in about 20 minutes' time right here on this show to have that conversation. And I just want to start today, before we get into more of your phone calls. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Happy to have you call into today's program. I do want to just say this to Drew Brees, who earlier, I guess less than a week ago, it was his comments in the middle of everything going on in our streets. And that's not a metaphor. Literally going on in our streets. Mere 2 days after a weekend where rioting and looting took place in our streets. And Brees' comments to Yahoo Finance about never being able to agree with anybody who doesn't stand at a attention, hand over heart for the national anthem, or doesn't pay respect to the flag, which was interpreted as having to stand hand over heart, because the question was, what happens? What do you think the league will do if players decide to kneel? And those comments, as I said here, betrayed, or was felt as a betrayal, obviously, by many of his teammates of color, if not all of them, that it also betrayed a lack of having absorbed what players were saying when they were taking a knee back in 2016 with Kaepernick and in 2017 after Colin was not in the league anymore, that they were saying it wasn't about the national anthem. It wasn't about the flag. Colin Kaepernick, as a matter of fact, in September of 2016 said, quote, "I love America. I love people. That's why I'm doing this. I want to help make America better," end quote. That was all being lost. Nobody was hearing that, or not enough people were hearing, and not about the anthem, not about the flag, just choosing this moment to bring attention to what needs to be brought attention to, that not everybody was being treated fairly in this country based on, obviously, color of skin. And so I said I was disappointed and shocked that Brees had not absorbed this part of the conversation back in 2016, 2017, and was now regurgitating the same lack of awareness as at that moment in time. And then when he apologized to his teammates, he apologized on his social media channels, saying, step by step, watch what I do. Be about it and be an ally to his teammates who were so broken up by his comments that he's allowed to say and allowed to have. And I stand at attention for the national anthem, hand over heart. So does my wife. We have our children stand up, take off their hats. That's what we have them do. That's how I want to have my children stand for the national anthem. They are white. I am white. I don't have the experiences of people who intend to kneel, and my children will understand why somebody is taking a knee during the national anthem, as I'm sure when we, knock on wood, if you're with me, get back into stadiums as fans, we're going to see it. They will totally know why somebody is doing that and why we're doing what we're doing. So Brees saying, follow me, watch me be about it. Well, again, his comments, Yahoo Finance, bringing back the whole to-do, for the lack of a better phrase, from 2016 and 2017 to the forefront about not understanding why kneeling is happening during the national anthem or not wanting to understand. Our president took to Twitter and commended Drew Brees for his comments and saying that everybody should stand at attention. In other words, not hearing, not caring to hear, or having heard, not caring to absorb why the kneeling is taking place. It is not about the anthem. It is not about being anti-military. It is not about that. Quote, I love America. I love people. That's why I'm doing this. I want to help make America better. On September the 2nd, 2016, Colin Kaepernick said that. So other members of the administration who took to the airwaves this week and said, if only Kaepernick or anybody would say, I love America first, then they'd have people listen to them for their protest. Kaepernick has said it. Drew Brees tweets back at the President of the United States.
Wasn't expecting that.
And he posted it on Instagram too, at Real Donald Trump. Quote, through my ongoing conversations with friends, teammates, and leaders in the black community, I realize this is not an issue about the American flag. It has never been. We can no longer use the flag to turn people away or distract them from the real issues that face our black communities. We did this back in 2017. Yeah. And regretfully, I brought it back with my comments this week. Yeah. We must stop talking about the flag and shift our attention to the real issues of systemic racial injustice, economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's history. If not now, then when? Yeah. We as a white community need to listen and learn from the pain and suffering of our black communities. We must acknowledge the problems, identify the solutions, and then put this into action. The black community cannot do it all alone. This will require all of us. Drew Brees being about it. Drew Brees, I salute you. That's being about it. Moment by moment, step by step, watch me. How many times do you hear people say that? You're like, oh, okay. And people are currently saying that about the NFL right now, even though the commissioner of the NFL released a video on Friday saying words that you've never heard an NFL commissioner say, and saying words that weren't said in 2016 and 2017, and saying words that players, some of the most famous players in the NFL, in a video of their own on Thursday, said they wanted to hear from the NFL. This was the video that was made by the commissioner and tweeted out by every last social media platform the NFL has.
It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, black people in our country. First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black lives matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family.
I salute the commissioner. I don't know, he's your boss. Yeah, he is. He is. And, you know, that would have been great to hear in 2016 and 2017. Different times. I understand. And the question is will this bring Colin Kaepernick back to the NFL? And is that just something that would be merely symbolic? Would he want it? That's the first question I got. I got from tons of people.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Is Cap getting his job back? Is he going to get his job back? Is
Well, I
this
thought
now
of, would he-
the
would he even
political
want
cover
it?
that's needed?
Yeah, would he want something like this?
Well, I mean, what do you want? The opportunity? He said he did last year. He said he wanted one last year. We know he's better than a bunch. I don't know when, you know, I tweet about it, you know, what people say back at me, whether they really believe it or not, or they're trying to be, you know, trolls or somewhat hurtful, because they know, obviously, this is something that I feel passionate about. But, you know, the guy went to a Super Bowl, all right? Guy went to a Super Bowl, and I know he wasn't performing well. And then when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took things over, they were going in the proverbial different direction. They weren't going in the different direction because Kaepernick blew up the Chip Kelly 49ers, right? I mean, that wasn't working in its own right. Chip Kelly, when this was all going down in 2016, was saying, this is not breaking up our locker room, folks. Just a bunch of owners who just didn't want to look at their fan base and feel a revolt and deal with the initial wave of either ticket cancellations or protesting maybe in front of their stadiums. I don't know. But I will say this, too. Just bringing, I guess, everything all together, because Peter King's going to be joining us. And he brought this up in his conversation with us, I think, last month? Can't tell anymore. I don't even know what the hell day it is.
Right.
But I do know yesterday was my anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Didn't forget that. That in the era of COVID-19, and the league just did send out health and safety protocols for when players return to the facilities or allowed to return to facilities, which sure looks like training camp's going to go, and it sure looks like this season's going to go. And we'll just figure out how it goes as the NBA announces they're returning, and Major League Baseball did fork up another proposal to its players, which we'll hit on later on in these next couple hours. But Peter mentioned that in the era of COVID-19, you know, your backup quarterback is maybe one of the most important people on the team, because if your quarterback tests positive for COVID and now it's not going to, a positive test is not going to force the closure of the league. They're just going to figure out how to deal with it as the rest of the country, as we open up, is. You saw the video of Las Vegas, Nevada that our buddy Arash Markazi tweeted out.
God bless him.
Woo. That as we're opening up here, it's not going to shut everything down. It's just going to remove the positively tested player. So backup quarterbacks are going to be crucial. How about your third stringer? if this happens the way it does appear to be happening, and there might be a COVID-19 protocol to return to action, the same way that you have to be tested over and over again if you've been concussed, that your baseline testing is used as a template to measure when you're ready to return from getting knocked out, that there may be some COVID-19 protocol this fall. Is he out of protocol? Is he tested positive? How many days has it been testing negative? What about your third-string quarterback maybe getting more time this year than any third-string quarterbacks have ever gotten time?
How many teams don't even have a third-string quarterback? We're going to see a roster spot spent on one of those.
And again, I understand. Well, this guy's better than most. This guy was at a Super Bowl, as I just said. If you need a third-string quarterback this year because the opportunity to play and maybe be the hot hand that you stick with because this is the way you're going to have to play in the 2020 NFL season, why isn't Colin Kaepernick at the top of your list? Or if you've got an opportunity like Jacksonville, where you got year 2 of Gardner Minshew, and then who else? Didn't they just sign somebody else there? Just throwing it out here in Los Angeles. I mean, where maybe communities are definitely more welcoming to the idea. I mentioned Baltimore. How about a quarterback room of Lamar Jackson, RG3, and Colin Kaepernick? How do you like me now? Where, okay, your quarterback can't go for 2 weeks, and then your backup can't go for 2 weeks. With all due respect to Trace McSorley, who I know is there, I know the with all due respect and how we talk around here.
Sure. The Jaguars signed Mike Glennon, who found himself trending the other day because Akeem Hicks blew him up.
Right. Akeem Hicks is just like, when asked if Colin Kaepernick deserved a job,
he's
or
like,
why is Kaepernick not in the league? And he's just like, we signed Mike Glennon. And then somebody found a piece of NFL films of him coming off the field, like breathing fire, and then just knocking into Glennon, just like giving him a hit with his arm.
Poor Glennon.
Come on.
Glennon.
Don Bowie, our major domo, is reminding me that, Peter King said if somebody tests positive for COVID, he might be out 2 weeks. But again, by the time we get to the playing season, there may be different concepts, and it's no longer 14 days, just 10 days, the CDC is saying. And then there are therapeutics that can actually shorten that time. We have no idea, people. All I'm saying is Colin Kaepernick should have a job in this league. Now's a perfect time to do it, but I'm also a 50-year-old white man saying that would be a remarkable moment of healing, one would think. But Steve Wyche pointed out in the first hour, hey, he might view that as just a token gesture. Peter King, Ariel Helwani, Josh Gad. Oh, boy, that'll be fun. Ariel Helwani talking about Conor McGregor, who's turning into the Brett Favre of UFC. He's got his third retirement this weekend.
Where's Scott
Josh
Hansen?
Gad. Wait till you hear what we're going to talk about with this talented, wonderful human on the planet. Diehard Miami sports fan as well. 844-204-RICH. Back with Peter King on NBCSN. We talked about our Geico fan line earlier in our program, and I want to make sure that everyone understands, certainly as you listen to us every single day on SiriusXM Channel 211, or watch us on NBCSN, or watch us on our YouTube stream, or as is up on our screen right now, listening to us on demand at Podcast One, podcast1.com/Rich Eisen. Our buddy the Ace Man's out there, on Podcast One. Geico wants to say thanks to everybody who is sharing on social media parts of their lives right now. Your savage dance moves, your DIY haircut fails, your inner lip sync star, Now it's Geico's turn to share as well with the Geico Give Back, a 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies for current and new customers. And because Geico's committed for the long haul, the 15% credit lasts your full policy term. Go to geico.com/giveback for info and eligibility. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Do you know, my kids cannot get enough of that Ultimate Tag. Have you watched any of it?
I have not.
There is something very Running Man about it.
Oh, really?
Yes, where the villains who are trying to chase you down all are different characters. Now, they don't have a buzzsaw,
There's
Dynamo.
Dynamo.
but there's a very Running Man.
Was Jim Brown had the
Jim
flamethrower?
Brown.
right?
Jim
Yeah.
Brown, Jesse the
Body.
He was prior to
Body
mine.
He was Mr. America, or whatever that guy.
Captain America or something,
whatever.
Could you
yeah.
imagine if he was the governor of Minnesota now?
Woof.
I cannot.
Who are the other villains?
They were all wrestlers. You should know them, Brock. I mean,
In
you
the
should know
Running
them
Man.
all. You guys are wrestlers. They were all professional.
I know the host.
I
Great
know.
Richard Dawson.
Of course.
And the dancers were the solid gold dancers. I
Were they
remember that.
really?
Yes, I remember that.
Captain
And the
Freedom
dance-
was Jesse Ventura.
Captain Freedom, that's it.
Dynamo, Buzzsaw,
that was on yesterday, actually.
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero.
That was on yesterday. I actually
Was
watched it.
Sub-Zero like in a goalie? And
Yes.
the goal
Yes.
And a goal
And
and
he
like,
looks
like
spiked.
net.
And his
What did-
goalie.
all
And
of it was
the
like
Running Man home game.
Sub-Zero, Just Zero. Yafet Koto was one of them.
Yaphet
Koto.
I
Yaphet
worked with him.
Koto.
My second movie here.
Yaphet Koto was a contestant because he was running
Oh,
the
right.
Resistance.
Yes, they put him in his buddy.
He was his buddy.
And
He
the
was his
beautiful
buddy.
Maria Conchita Alonso.
Oh, Jim Brown was Fireball.
Jim Brown was Fireball.
What a great.
It's a very
That
Running
movie
Man
is great.
vibe. A very Running Man
But
vibe.
think about it. We have
gotta
those
get JJ
shows now.
on.
It's
Huh?
crazy. Like we have those shows now. Reality television is like the Running Man.
I got to tell you,
without people dying.
I was watching the Ultimate Tag. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, we're a big holy moly house.
Oh yeah,
Holy moly.
That show is incredible.
Wriggle.
With Wriggle. And by the way, Tess, very likable.
There you go.
Yes.
Oh, it went up a register. Be
It's
careful.
back.
Welcome back. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Major League Baseball gave a proposal to its players. We will hit on that on the back end of this hour. It's of interest to our next guest, who is a diehard Red Sox fan who loves his baseball as much as anybody else. But we place that aside for the moment to talk about the world of the National Football League. His Football Morning in America column is always must-read material, today in particular. He's kind enough to call in, even though he's supposed to be tapping out. He's supposed to be on vacation. He said yes to the invitation to come here, and I always appreciate that. The old-time great Peter King. How are you, sir?
Hi, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing better for talking to you. So, walk everyone through how that video that Roger Goodell posted came to be, Peter.
Well, Roger Goodell, like everyone in the league office, knew that there were players who were working with an NFL employee, a 27-year-old NFL social media producer, who, unhappy with the league's response and the unwillingness for the league to, on the record, in words, condemn racism and say Black Lives Matter, this 27-year-old white male living in a shoebox of an apartment in Mar Vista, which is probably not far from you, basically reached out to Mike Thomas of the Saints on Instagram. He sent him a direct message and said, hey, I'm disappointed with our response with this. This is what I do. Love to help you. Reach out if you can. And 23 minutes later, Michael Thomas reached out to him and said, yeah, we need a vehicle. We have the opinions, and we also have the channels. We have the social media outlet to make this go wide. And so this video was made in a 24-hour period. I think everybody who is listening to this, most everybody, has seen it with the 20 NFL players on it. Just basically not, I'd say, asking nicely but forcefully to Roger Goodell and the NFL, listen to us. And, you have to do the following. And the next morning at 10 o'clock, Roger Goodell kicked off his virtual daily meeting with his executive vice presidents. And he kicked that off by saying, I'm going to make a video today. And then the rest of that day was basically made up with the script, what he's going to say, how he's going to say it. And he pretty much did almost exactly what the players asked him to do.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of a watershed moment. Now where it goes from here, as I write, nobody knows. He's got 32 bosses, and this might be nice for Roger Goodell to say and think, but is he going to get buy-in from the owners in the NFL?
Well, I guess what will buy-in look like, Peter?
I don't know. No one knows. I mean, does it mean that you can protest during the national anthem doing anything you want? Maybe. Does it mean that we are going to get together with players and make some sort of deal somehow, some way? We will do something if you will stand for the anthem at some sort of attention. I don't know. It's just so early in the process. Feelings are so raw. Opening day is 3 months from Wednesday. So there's plenty of time for people to just settle down and think about this and think about what a solution and next steps entail.
Well, what about letting the players figure that out, and then the league basically saying "gotcha" and then give them the platform that
yeah.
If you're listening, well, players come up with it. And then just in terms of kneeling on the anthem, I mean, you want to talk about the realities of 2020. It's been a long while since broadcasts showed the national anthem to a country. And if there's no fans in the stands, right, it may not have the same effectiveness of calling attention to what needs to have attention called to it. But
Rich, they do, the networks do show occasionally. They do show the national anthem. There are games during the year, certainly at the Super Bowl and other. I can't tell you. Maybe there's 10 games during the year that,
right,
for one reason or another, they show the national anthem. So you're right. They don't often show the national anthem, but it's not like if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there, it didn't happen, or whatever that cliche is.
Right.
The point is that, people, whether they kneel, whatever sort of kind of demonstration or defiant act they do during the anthem, people are going to learn about it and find out about it. So whether or not it's on national TV, I don't think is the most important thing.
Peter King, Football Night in America, NBC Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. So now that it's filtering into, there's 32 members of the National Football League who can essentially make what this is seems to be moving in a seismic direction, actually codify this thing. What might be a next step from what you're hearing, Peter?
I think there are some players that want, and this is I'm probably overstating this, who want some sort of satisfaction on Colin Kaepernick. Michael Thomas, the safety for the Houston Texans, who's outspoken and very involved in social issues, on the level of a Malcolm Jenkins and a Chris Long. He very much thinks that the NFL has to make amends with Colin Kaepernick, however this is going to be done. In my opinion, I'm not saying that this ends up with Colin Kaepernick being in a uniform and helmet on opening day. I don't know what it means, but I think that there needs to be some Paris peace talks between league executives and Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, behind the scenes where nobody knows about it. I mean, you thought that
It's like I said, Rich, like I wrote in my column today about Drew Brees. Even though he's done an incredible amount for the state of Louisiana and city of New Orleans over the last 15 years, in my opinion, just my opinion, if I were him, I would do something very significant for the black community of New Orleans, like this year, or the black community of Louisiana, maybe involving education, whatever it would be. But I'd do something without cameras being there. I would just do it because you had it in your heart that you really did want to make amends, if indeed that's what he wants to do. But I'm saying it's about the same thing with Kaepernick. I just think that there is still this open sore, and without putting salve on it and putting a bandage on it, I still think that a lot of this stuff is not going to go away.
Well, I mean, just before we move on to the actual playing of the season and the health protocols that were issued this morning about all 32 teams needing to follow when players are back in the facility. Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. I mean, what happened last year where Kaepernick was receiving a tryout, coming out of the blue, it was done, where nobody saw it coming, at least
right.
Most of us who follow the NFL and cover it and didn't see that coming. It was put on a ridiculously short time frame that spurred nothing but mistrust from Kaepernick's side of things, to the point where Kaepernick switched up the location of the workout last minute, which pissed off so many members of the talent evaluation community. Some of them did
right.
go to his workout. The question, what a holy heck of a mess that whole thing turned out to be. How can there be some form of trust, where you said some sort of Paris Peace Accords, but maybe the video that the commissioner said would be the first step, and then it would have to be a gig that he wants.
Rich, I think whatever happens, it has to be done privately, at least at first. There's no good way to do this by Roger Goodell standing up to announce, I am going to have coffee with Colin Kaepernick next Tuesday at Starbucks in Midtown. I mean, he's got to reach out, in my opinion, to both him and his people and to say, can we have a conversation, off-the-record conversation, or whatever it would be? Can we just have a conversation? Of course, everything that has happened is spawned mistrust between both sides. We all know that. So, and maybe there's nothing that can be done. All I know is that I think that, at least in my opinion, that's where step one needs to be, because there are so many players in this league right now who are still hot that Colin Kaepernick got frozen out of a job 4 years ago.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Football Night in America is Peter King. So it sure looks like this season's going to go down, Peter, right? I mean, it looks like, coaches are back in facilities now, with the exception of, I believe, only the 49ers, that the health protocols were put out. They're very stringent, but it's nothing that cannot be done. And testing will be there. I'm hearing about, N95 material put over face masks to help mask players and practice social distancing despite being literally next to each other or on top of each other. Like, this looks like it's a go, Peter, to me.
Well, it is. But again, you knew, basically, Rich, you knew that the NFL was going to come up with an exhaustive, extremely thorough plan. You knew that. They're too smart not to. But that doesn't mean that when John Doe leaves X facility and goes out and has 2 beers on a Thursday night, at a bar, that he's not smashed in with 64 people in a small area. He's going to be told by the infection control officer in every team, all these guys are going to be told, don't do this. And I think the vast majority, and who knows, maybe 100% will not do it. But I think it's unrealistic to when the rest of the human race is allowed to go out and socialize by the fall, I'm sure that most places in the United States will be wide open. So that's the whole thing. I have an item in my column this week, talking to Alan Sills, and he said, you cannot build a complete, impenetrable bubble around teams. And so, the NFL is going to do everything within its power, but that doesn't mean that some Saturday morning when 70 players on the active and practice squads and injured reserve, when all those people are tested, it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be 2 or 3 who come up positive. And we hope, of course, that nobody comes up positive. And it could well be that nobody will come up positive. But, I think the NFL also has to be prepared for a worst-case scenario. What happens if 3 or 4 guys on the same team test positive? What are you going to do? And what is the team that's supposed to play him that week going to do? Are you supposed to say, well, these 4 guys are going to be quarantined for 2 weeks, but they haven't really run into anybody in the last few days, so the rest of the team is okay? That's unrealistic. So that sort of nuclear option is going to be very weird if it comes into play this season. And I have no idea as of right now if the NFL knows what it's going to do about that. It surely isn't saying.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Dak doesn't get done until the last second in July. Yay or nay?
That's probably right, I would think. And if it doesn't get done, he'll just show up making whatever it is, $31 or $32 million.
I mean, that's kind of crazy, Peter. I mean, it right? I mean,
well, it's crazy. It's crazy that it got to this point. For as smart a businessman as Jerry Jones knows, it's amazing. It's amazing that he and Stephen Jones, at the beginning of this, did not understand and did not take seriously enough that Dak Prescott and his hardline agent were not going to do a team-friendly deal. And you never, ever, ever profit when negotiating a quarterback contract when you wait. Never. Doesn't happen. Name the last team that waited. Joe Flacco, the Baltimore Ravens, he raked the Ravens over the coals. Now, he won a Super Bowl, but, he ended up killing the Baltimore Ravens with that contract. It never helps a team to wait, and yet the Cowboys waited.
Well, certainly
I don't mean to say they get what they deserve, but they get what they deserve.
Nice. You know what? I mean, because, again, Peter, Mahomes and or Watson, they're already on the clock. I mean, yeah. So why wouldn't you want to get your guy done?
I feel the same way about those two. If I was Cal McNair, and if I was Brett Veach and Cal McNair, and and Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby and the guys with the Texans, I'd be getting that contract done before training camp, if at all humanly possible. Because the only thing that's going to happen by waiting is his value is going to go up because other quarterbacks are going to sign. So, and maybe that's the way those guys will feel too. I mean, there's no reason for me to sign, even if this thing blows today's contracts out of the water,
Well, and just, I guess, to bring it all full circles, I'm sure you heard what I was saying when I was introducing you. Could you imagine what this would be like in the NFL if the NFL and the NFLPA did not have their collective bargaining agreement hammered out just before everything came to a halt? You're seeing what's going on with baseball right now. This would be a major part of the conversation right now, trying to get ready for a playing season.
Well, the amazing thing is, Rich, when you think about it, is that an average of 30 players in every locker room voted no on that contract. An average of 30 players. Think about that.
Wow.
33 voted yes, 30 voted no. That's how close this was. And, look, if players didn't vote for it, then, I'm sure they would regret it right now. And I think reason prevailed. It's like the only time that I ever remember a sports labor agreement where the director of the Players Association was urging his players to do this deal, and a lot of the player leaders were saying, no, don't do the deal, don't do the deal. That was crazy, but you're absolutely right. Players are certainly fortunate, in my opinion anyway, that they got the deal done.
Peter, thanks for the time. Enjoy your time down. Always appreciate the calls to this show. Always.
I really appreciate it, Rich. Thank you so much.
You got it. That's Peter King at Peter_King. I must follow. We'll take a break. We'll take your phone calls. We'll hit what's going on in Major League Baseball. Our poll question is a fun one, movie-related. I took a big loss on the whole Hoosiers thing last week. Am I bleeding? Because I got tagged. We're back with that in a moment. Where do things stand on our poll question, Christopher, which we'll unpack with our friends at NBCSN when we return? Where do things stand right now?
Yeah, so it's anniversary of Trading Places and Ghostbusters release, a year apart, 83, 84. Both are playing at a movie theater. Only pick one. Who you got? Ghostbusters right now, 56-44. Best post-SNL career, Bill Murray, 62-38 over Eddie Murphy.
My gosh.
Woo. Didn't expect that.
Well, Bill's, talking. Eddie, wasn't Eddie up for an Oscar this year, too?
He was up for Dolomite.
Right?
I know that.
I think, so maybe that's why. Eddie also just kind of disappeared for like 10 years, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
But
he's on the comeback trail.
He just signed a big deal with Netflix.
Oh, yeah, he's going to have a comedy special.
No, I know that, but
soon.
in terms of just,
He was out of the public eye for a while. Bill Murray is very out there.
Favorite Bill Murray movie? Go. Top of your head. Go. Go. It's not Ghostbusters, so go.
No, it's Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day.
I tried to show that to my kids the other day. They were just not into it. I guess years from now, it's still you. They're still too young. It's still too young.
They're still too young.
Still too young, says the man who's got an Olaf stuffed animal next to him at age 54.
I love Olaf.
I know you do.
I love Olaf is great. Olaf is me.
Well, it's Josh Gad.
But it's me. It's like my character. If I were a character, Olaf would be.
Do you like warm hugs?
Olaf.
Okay. You like warm hugs. You don't understand why you melt. But you understand why you melt near a fire, though.
Yes,
you can understand
I get
that.
I wish I could melt some weight. I'd be fat.
Have you never seen Frozen?
Why would I see Frozen?
I can't wait.
Why did you see Frozen?
I actually got sucked in by my family to watch it, and I finally watched it, and I was like, I'm in.
Beautiful film.
It's amazing. It's one of the best.
You are going to see it soon.
Animated films of all time. It may be like in the top 3.
The fact you get to see Holy Moly, I can't even imagine.
It's so funny.
I see Ultimate Tag just because my kids just won't stop watching it right now.
I want to be with Brockman, though, if he watches it. I want to see him.
Frozen?
Yeah, because he's going to be like, that was a good movie.
You know what you should do? You should do that instead of your hamburger thing.
Frozen
I don't know if we're going to do that this year.
Yeah. As you know, I've been trying to socially distance myself from that for years.
It's worked.
Thank you.
It's worked. Socially distant.
844-204-RICH, number to dial. Let's take a phone call of Todd in Illinois. You're here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you today, Todd?
Oh, hey, Rich. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for calling in. You are on the air. What is on your mind, sir?
Well, first of all, thanks for taking my call, Rich. I've been listening to you since day one, man.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
A little nervous.
Take your time.
I come through this whole thing a little different perspective. My family's military, and my family's also police.
Okay.
And in fact, my son just graduated from the State Trooper Academy, #1 in his class.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Best soul I know. Best man I know. And I go back to sports, and I don't mean to borrow something from any given Sunday, but we've all got to come together on this some way, or we're all going to die together on this too. And I understand the protests. I don't understand the looting. I don't understand the killing. My son will be the first one to tell you that was one of the most insanely outrageous things he's ever seen. But I think, for the NFL, Rich, I don't understand why we can't take 5 minutes before the game and take a knee and show on the jumbotrons, pictures of individuals that have died in the line of duty and have died because of police brutality together, and then come together as one during the national anthem. I don't know why we can't do both, Rich.
Well, you know what? I hear you, Todd. I guess part of the reason why it can't be done at the same time, and it can be that some people can stand and some people can kneel, and that those who stand are not viewed as being ignorant of the reason why those who are kneeling or intolerant of that, and people who kneel don't need to be viewed as being anything other than thought-provoking. That there is a possibility for that to happen too, and the conversation that we can get to that point. But I think, look, I appreciate you joining and saying what you said, and I wish your son nothing but the best of luck. And you say he's a good man and a good soul. We need folks like that wearing the badge and being on the front lines to keep everybody safe. So I wish you and your son good luck, and I wish you call back anytime you wish.
Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it.
You got it. There you go, Todd. Here's a scoop. Whatever is constructed, which is the league has got to figure it out. They've got 3 months to figure it out. And if I was in charge, I'd say to the players, what do you got in mind? Everything's on the table. Let's talk about it. And then form a committee, if you want, with the membership, that there is a 5-6 member committee specific. There is a new committee that the NFL membership is forming. What do you want to call it? Community Relations Committee or Police Relations Committee? Whatever you would like to come up with the word that connotes the importance and the meaning, and it's got teeth to it. And let's figure out what the protest will look like and be before. That players want it, you got it. Owners, let's get comfortable with it if it makes you uncomfortable. Because guess what? This is the world we're living in now.
Tough.
And
Adrian Peterson said he thinks he's going to see a majority of players do something before games this year.
Again, somebody taking a knee isn't viewed as anything other than thought-provoking, and somebody who's standing isn't viewed anything other than just patriotic. And the person who's kneeling is patriotic, and the person who's standing is patriotic. And the person who's standing is thoughtful, and the person who's kneeling is thoughtful. That would be the moment for me to get to. And not like there's only one way to do this, and you will do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, then you are bad. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to work. So just come up with something, and if it's where owners are informed, they're part of the process, but it's player driven. Can we start? Let's start there. And then we all as fans understand that if somebody kneels, it is not
about the flag, man.
About the flag or the anthem. You may say it's in your face. Well, they're trying to get your attention. That's what it's for. And then we have the conversation where I'm at a game, I turn to my kids, take your hat off, stand up, we'll get you a hot dog in a second. This is an important moment. It's the national anthem. stand hand over your heart, hat off. Oh, person to our left, person to our right is kneeling. Okay. That's the way they wish to address the national anthem. This is the way I wish to address it. I'm not intolerant. You aren't anti-patriotic. Is that overly simple? Is that too pie in the sky? I'm just throwing that out there, and I can't believe, literally, I'm having this. This is the same stuff we were saying 3-4 years ago.
I know. I think it would be a good idea to have the Players Coalition involved as well.
Well, again, when we had Anquan Bolden on last week, and Malcolm Jenkins is the other co-founder of Players Coalition, he's like, this is not affiliated with the NFL. Not affiliated. We're just two NFL players. We're trying to affect change. We're trying to get people to join us, but this is not affiliated with the NFL.
But to have discussions with them, if you're
right, and
have,
others as well. Correct? But they cannot be told how to do it.
Right, that's the whole point.
That's simple.
Yeah.
So you tell us how you would like it to be done. And this is a place of business. We being the ones who run the business that makes a poop ton of money for us and the players. Let's hash out what you would like to do. Don't you think it should start with the players? It has to.
Has to. The owners have to have a 100% open mind to whatever's going to happen, because protests are going to happen.
And the league is going to go. They're going to go.
Like, these two things are happening, so it's whether the collision course is destructive or
you don't have to have
productive.
a collision course. It doesn't have to be a collision course. It can be, there's enough time to talk about it. That's all we've been talking about, as the NFL has had time on its side, unlike other leagues that had to stop play in the middle or not even start. Speaking of which, Major League Baseball has delivered a proposal to its players. And I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
My buddy Carl Ravitch from ESPN was the first to tweet it out. And again, with this back and forth being so particularly distressing, I appreciate Carl's pug avatar. It just adds a certain level of cuteness that we need. We need
pug power.
Pug power,
wow,
baby.
Hashtag.
Maybe Doug the Pug can get everyone in the same room. So Carl's like saying that 75% prorated salary, 76-game season, playoff pool money, no draft pick compensation for signing player, which apparently has not happened in 45 years. Regular season stops on the 27th of September. Postseason ends at the end of October. Significant move towards players' demands and effort to play more. As we know, Major League Baseball said there's a backstop of the commissioners instituting a 48-game schedule, which seems to be not long enough. And the players only get 30% of their salary. The players' latest proposal had 70% of their salary, an absurd number of games that I think the league would finish in November, and the season would finish in November. And I'm like, let's find the middle ground. Well, in case you think this is middle ground, Andrew McCutchen had just one short tweet. LOL. And we're assuming he's not reacting to a Doug the Pug video.
No.
So that's a no vote from Andrew McCutchen.
Let's find it, baby.
At least we're getting proposals back and forth.
I guess.
It seemed like there were days of nothing.
Our buddy John Heyman, who's an insider for MLB Network, pointing out that Carl gave the end dates, and there was no early date. As John Heyman, this is part of the string of tweets that I'm referring to. People aren't thrilled with it in baseball's players ranks, not at all. Heyman pointing out that the season would start on July 10th. So the July 4th idea, like, hey, Independence Day, old national pastimes back just for you fans.
That'd be awesome.
That's out the window. As Jason Stark from The Athletic told us on Friday, that for that to happen, they'd have to have the deal done by happy hour, and that didn't happen, as the hour is not terribly happy. Do I need to keep saying it? I feel like I'm the old broken record, which is definitely not a phrase that kids would understand, right? There's no vinyl anymore that's broken. It skips. I know there are DVDs that might skip.
Well, CDs used to skip.
CDs. I mean, there's no
worst.
CDs.
Oh.
Does Spotify skip?
Mike? No.
Okay, thank
There
you,
you go.
Mike.
Does
I
not.
look at my audio executive.
Does
with
not
his,
skip.
Oh, look at that Olaf in front of him, ready for Josh Gad to call in next hour. But I feel like the old broken record. Baseball cannot do this. They cannot throw their hands up and basically say, here's a schedule that looks like spring training. It's 48 days, and then we try and figure out what I guess that would be better than zero, better than nothing. But Passon pointed out from ESPN that we're kind of close, that in terms of you take a look at how much money there would be.
Total money, yeah.
Total money there would be, and how many games would be required for the players to make their 100% prorated salary that they're looking for from the March agreement, and the owners being able to meet in the middle, I guess. But if you keep taking the stance where owners feel that they're negotiating against themselves, that's when they're going to throw their hands up and say, we're done. So keep talking. Pretty pleased with the old cherry on top. Because basketball's coming back. The NHL is eventually going to make a date certain and a location certain. Golf's coming back. We've seen racing going down in NASCAR and now IndyCar. Premier League's coming back. Conor McGregor's not coming back unless in 2 weeks from now he's back.
Exactly.
The new Brett Favre of sports, not Ariel Helwani. Conor McGregor, Ariel Helwani, and Josh Gad in our final hour coming up. What is going on with you, Jim Brockmeyer and Brett Musburger?
This is my Musburger face. Brett Musburger is a punk punk. The man is a thief, okay? Brett Musburger is a thief.
How so?
Stole my line.
What line was that?
This is for all the Tostitos. That's what I always yell when I climax inside of a woman. Now I have to yell out, Ruffles have ridges, and it's not the same thing.
Musburger responded, yo, Buckmeyer or whatever, saw your pathetic performance on the Eisen show. Your ex whispered to me you always screamed for all the Tostitos prematurely. So Hank responded moments ago, telling Musburger who's number one. Bob, how would you try to broker the peace here?
Obama once famously had a beer summit between the policeman and Henry Louis Gates. Mm-hmm. I think that they need to meet not only over a six-pack, but a gigantic bowl of Tostitos and hash this thing out.
Here is Brett Musburger. How are you, Brent?
I'm so proud of you guys for trying to help resurrect little Jimmy Brickmeyer's career. We all know the problem.
He says that you stole all the Tostitos from him, Brent. Is that true? Or?
What's he talking about? Mm-hmm. You know, Rich, it's really interesting because as we started Peace In here in Las Vegas, and Brickmeyer was having trouble getting a job. So our general manager, he interviewed Brickmeyer and asked him about a three-team parlay. And our boy, Jimmy, he thought that was two hookers with him in a Morristown hotel room. You know? Wish him the best. He's so delusional. And listen, let him go at it. For all the Tostitos, baby.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
In Cutler!
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
The director of Hoosiers and Rudy, David Anspaugh, here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Available now on the Rich Eisen Show app.
With me saying how much fake Rudy is, Hoosiers? None of that happened? Is that what you're saying?
Earlier on the show, from NBC Sports, Peter King. Coming up, ESPN MMA journalist Ariel Helwani. Plus, from Disney's Artemis Fowl, actor Josh Gad. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Oh, my goodness. TJ Jefferson, our social media Grand Maester, is just is not even close to jarring the putts now today. It's okay. It's okay. No, we're going to make it up. It's a team effort. There may be an I in Rich and an I in Eisen, but this is a show. We're bringing it all together here. So here we are in our final hour of our Monday program. Good to see you, Chris Brockman.
Hey, buddy.
Mike Del Tufo.
Good to see you, Rich.
Don Bowie, will you take the side shot of Mike Del Tufo,
No,
please?
Olaf's moved now.
What do you mean Olaf's moved? Olaf's now on the putting surface.
Playing caddy for
Yeah,
TJ.
Oh, this is
caddy.
like now that's kind of like it's like a frozen miniature golf course now. That's about where you need to. Okay, so Josh Gad is joining us. All of us with children know Josh Gad as the voice of Olaf. Mike Del Tufo does not have children, but he's a diehard Olaf fan who's 54 years old, and it'll be a great conversation with Josh Gad, who's got about 1 million things he wants to promote, and with some of the most amazing stuff that he's been doing pop culture-wise of late, he has been getting a host of celebrities to come back in their old roles and reunite on YouTube. He's gotten reunited cast shows of Lord of the Rings, Goonies, Back to the Future, Splash, and a Ghostbusters one to come. It's been amazing. And that's part of our poll question today, right, Christopher?
Yes. So Ghostbusters was released today in 1984. The year before,
yes,
June 8th, 1983, Trading Places released. Two just
Are you saying
Hall of Fame Mount Rushmore comedies?
It was
back-to-back
back in
years.
1983. You're saying it was 37 years ago today that frozen concentrated orange juice just almost tanked the market, is what you're saying.
Clarence speaks.
The crop report was released 37 years ago today.
37 years ago today.
The machines were asked to be turned back on 37 years ago.
And then 36 years ago today.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man took over.
Nobody
New York City.
steps on a church in my town.
So right.
So here's what we're going with. They're both playing in a movie theater. You only have time to see one. Which are you seeing? Trading Places.
Trading Places.
Ghostbusters.
Count me in for that.
Ghostbusters.
Yes.
And then a follow-up.
Yes.
Who had the best post-Saturday Night Live career? Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray.
All right, we'll update the poll question
Rich
here
Eisen
on the
Show.
at Rich Eisen Show. So let's turn to the phone lines right now. Enjoy this man's work immensely. He's outstanding at what he does. We'll ask him the poll question, but right now, what's on everybody's minds is Conor McGregor. Is he the new Brett Favre of the sports world? A third retirement for Conor McGregor in the weekend in which UFC hit 250. Ariel Helwani of the worldwide leader in sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
Hello, Rich and friends. How are you? I got so excited for a second because I thought Josh Gad was actually going to do the show with me right now, and I almost freaked out.
No, he'll be on shortly. Now, you have children, though, Ariel, correct?
Yes.
How old
I
are
have
you?
3 children.
Okay, so that's why you've seen. How many times have you seen Frozen?
So my daughter is the youngest. She's 3,
Yes.
and so you can imagine that we probably watch it. Almost nightly at this point, especially with Disney Plus and all the different iterations and whatnot. So if I was thinking I would get to go tell my daughter right now that I spoke to Olaf, she would freak out. But alas, not happening.
Well, how about the fact that you would speak to a 54-year-old man with no children who's a diehard Olaf fan and Mike Del Tufo? Would that count for your child?
Well, honestly, for me, this is way cooler. I mean, I've already told you about what you mean to me and the inspiration that you were in my career. So this is cool. But being the dad that I am,
Yes.
Father's Day coming up, I felt like I could give them that. I mean, great booking on your part. That's a phenomenal booking right there. He's, I'm jealous of the booking, to be honest, because he's a very busy man. I'm just being honest. I was a little excited for a moment.
So, Ariel Helwani, is Conor McGregor the new Brett Favre of sports? What do you think?
Well, okay, so I said this to a team, and I spoke to him on Saturday after the tweet. So he's done this now 3 times where he tweets that he's retired. And his timing isn't great on this one because it happens literally, minutes after UFC 250. So people were annoyed because they felt like he was taking some shine away from Amanda Nunes. But unlike the first two times, this time he actually elaborated. And I think that, and it's okay, it's understandable. I think that people are distracted by the R word here and aren't really listening to what he is saying or digesting properly what he is saying. And what he told me was he's very frustrated. He wants to fight. He had a very difficult 2019. He was, very confident in the fact that he would fight at least 3 times this year, which is music to the UFC's ears because, when he fights, it's a huge financial success for them. And he's like, I'm ready to go. Like, get me a fight. I'm ready to go. I want to fight. Stop trying to ice me. Pandemic, no gate, no fans, no opponent. Like, I want to fight. You guys are putting on fights. I want to fight. And so he's basically throwing up his hands and says, all right, I'm tired of this. This has taken away all the fun. I'm not happy anymore. And so do I think he will fight again? Yes. I asked him in January after the second time that he retired. He's like, of course I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight till I'm 50. I'm going to fight till my son is fighting on the same cards as me, and I'm going to be fighting in the co-main event in his main event fight. So I think we'll see him. I just think he's very frustrated right now.
So how has his message been received by Dana White and the powers that be then?
So Dana's reaction to the message, because he found out about it while he was doing the post-fight media rounds on Saturday, was like, hey, all my guys are acting crazy right now because of the pandemic. And that's kind of his take on it, but I don't know if that's the most accurate take, if I'm being honest. There is a larger story here. The story is that some of the biggest stars in the UFC are openly feuding with the company. Now, all their reasons aren't the same. Money is kind of the common denominator when it comes to all these stories. But you've got Henry Cejudo, who just walked away as bantamweight champion because he wasn't happy with how much he was getting paid. You've got John Jones, who's openly saying, please release me so I can go fight elsewhere. You've got Jorge Masvidal, who's saying the same and talking about the discrepancies in the revenue share agreement that they have with the fighters. And then you have Conor saying what he said on Saturday. So this isn't a good look for the UFC, and they should probably try to figure it out before I think it becomes a bigger deal and more fighters start to speak out.
Ariel Helwani, ESPN MMA expert, journalist, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what's the fix? You must have an idea about what the fix might be or what the players are, what the fighters are looking for, Ariel?
So, it's an interesting thing because it's easy to lump all the guys together and say there's unrest, right? There's a revolt going on, but really all their gripes are different, right? And there's different fixes for each and every one of their gripes. Now, I will also say that historically, when fighters have spoken up about being unhappy, because this isn't a new thing, famously it really started in 2007 when Randy Couture wanted to fight a guy named Fyodor Emelianenko, and he actually teamed up with Mark Cuban to try and make this happen, but the UFC had a contract with him. But what happens is, and it happened with Couture, eventually they come to terms. That fighter is relatively happy. He stays quiet, and the issue goes away. I'm wondering, does someone break through here? Does someone actually say, you know what, enough is enough. It's not just about making me happy. It's about helping everyone else that's coming up. That remains to be seen. I don't know if anyone really has that in their heart. So with Cejudo, I think Cejudo will come back eventually. Even today he's talking to TMZ about fighting the 145 champion. So the Cejudo one, he's handled the whole thing incorrectly from the get-go. He retires in the cage, and then literally 10 minutes later at the post-fight press conference, he goes, well, they know my number. So, okay, no one believes you that you're retiring anyway. John Jones' situation, I would love to see him go up to heavyweight finally and fight Francis Ngannou. He wants more money. What they need to do is sit down and actually talk. They're not even talking. They're going back and forth on Twitter and text messages, and they're not even talking and negotiating properly like actual adults. So they need to sit down and talk and figure this out from a financial standpoint that helps both sides. The Masvidal one to me is the most interesting because he was paid X amount to fight Nate Diaz at Madison Square Garden in November, and now they're offering him less to fight the actual real champion at 170, and he's like, how does that make sense? So that to me is the one that seems like they're the most far apart. And then Conor, you have a situation where you just need to get the guy a fight. Like, get the guy a fight. Yes, no one is in attendance. Yes, there's no gate, no fans, all that. But the pay-per-view will kill, especially if you do it in July when there's no sports yet. To me, it makes a lot of sense to try to, get him back in there. At the end of the day, what they need to do is start talking to these guys, listening to them, and not take everything so personally where they say, all right, you're not going to fight, we're going to the next guy. Because who hurts in that situation the most? I think it's the fans, because you're not getting the best fighters to fight, and that's what the fans want to see.
Who should Conor fight? Who would you suggest?
Well, I would love to see him fight Justin Gaethje, and they're saying Gaethje is going to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's the champion at 155. And that's a great fight, but Khabib's only ready in September, And if Gaethje doesn't want to fight Conor and thinks like, hey, it's in my best interest to wait, then okay, fine, that's his prerogative. But what they're telling Conor is just wait for the winner of that fight. And Conor's saying, hey, I'm ready to go. You have the biggest star in the history of the sport, the biggest star ready to go. Don't tell me to wait till December, January when that guy is ready. Like, figure something out. So, all right, if it's not Gaethje, put him off to the side. I would love to do the Diaz trilogy fight. That's the easiest one to sell. I mean, could you imagine those two guys fighting in an empty arena and they're trash talking and they're hitting each other? It's great theater.
Right.
I would love to see that happen. So do that, but they haven't talked to Diaz yet for some strange reason. And if not Diaz, if you're not going to give Masvidal the title fight, then do Masvidal versus Conor, because I think that would be a massive fight as well.
It sure would. I'll give you the floor on Amanda Nunes. You said that she's been overshadowed. Let's give her due. I mean, the GOAT, right? Correct? Ariel?
Yes, 100%. When it comes to women's MMA, 100%. She is the greatest ever. She's the most accomplished. The gap between her and the rest of the competitors at 145 and 135, where she competes in both weight classes, is just incredibly wide right now. There's no one on her level. And what she did on Saturday was not only make history for women's MMA, she made history for MMA, period, because there have been double champions, meaning a guy holds two belts at the same time, but no one has ever successfully defended both of those belts at the same time. So she's fighting at 135 and 145, like one fight 135, 145, 135, and that's impressive. No one's ever done that. Conor didn't do it. Cormier didn't do it. Henry Cejudo didn't do it. And so she made history being the first one. She's expecting a child in September. She's not pregnant. Her partner is pregnant. And she's going to take some time off. And usually that's not a good thing for the UFC, but in this case it might be a good thing, because that will allow other contenders, I think, to form a queue and emerge and evolve. Hopefully they can find someone. If you're a hardcore fan out there and you're looking for a name right here and now, I think the next best opponent is someone named Irene Aldana, who comes from Mexico. She's a great striker. Not quite sure she's on Amanda's level, but if they need a body, she's probably the most deserving for her next fight.
Ariel Helwani, a few more minutes left with him from ESPN, the host of Ariel Helwani's MMA show, Ariel and the Bad Guy, DC and Helwani. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I do want to talk to you as opposed to just read off your list of all the things that you do. Should we all right. I'll just come straight through the front door. We're all looking at all sports that are operating in COVID-19 to see how they are handling COVID-19 and testing for it. Has nobody popped since these two fights? There's now two fights. We haven't heard anything about any of these fighters testing positive for COVID because they were on top of each other, fighting and breathing on each other and sweating on each other. Do we know anything about this, Ariel?
So since the pandemic, really started here in America, they've held now 5 events. Prior to the first one on May 9th,
yes,
someone popped before the event.
That's correct.
Jacare Souza and his 2 cornermen. Since then, no one has had to be removed from a fight because of testing positive. Now, there was a situation that happened last Thursday where one of the fighters who was scheduled to compete on Saturday, named Ian Heinisch, one of his cornermen, they said, had a false positive, and for like 5 hours he was actually removed from the fight because he was in contact with that guy. But then they tested him again, and like 4 hours later they got the results. I don't know how they got the results so quickly, and they said no, it was a false positive. The guy is good to go. He actually tested negative. Other than that, we haven't heard of anyone else testing positive. Now, I'm surprised just because these guys have been training the whole time and they're all on top of each other, touching each other, and all that stuff. And let's be honest, fighters sometimes aren't the most hygienic, individuals out there. But the one thing that they're not doing, look, I think they're doing a good job now going into the fights. They're testing them twice, once when they check in, once on Friday before the fight, and then they have to self-isolate. They're not testing them after the fight when they go back into the real world. And I would love to know why that is. They just say, okay, we're just, responsible leading up, and then it's on them. And then what would happen if they actually did do that? So like on Sunday morning, if they made the guys get that third test, and then we make sure, okay, everyone who's leaving this event in Las Vegas or wherever it may be is good to go, 100% clean. I would love if they did that. One more thing, but they're not doing that. So we don't really, and the fighters aren't really going to offer up that information. So we're not really hearing what's happening after the fact. And that to me is the biggest thing that's kind of left to check off on that list of things to do.
Okay, Ariel, are we going to see a DC Stipe Miocic fight? We're going to get that trilogy. What do you think?
Yeah,
your boy DC.
I think we're going to see it in August, and I think it will be great. It's the fight to make, and we've been wanting to see it for a long time. So I think we'll see it in August, and that should be, if DC is telling me the truth, and he usually does, that will be his last fight ever. That'll be his retirement fight. So what a way to go out.
I love that guy. I love Daniel Cormier.
He's the best.
He sure is. He really is. On the opposite side of not being the best, has your Knicks fandom still not been knocked out of you by the worst owner in sports, Ariel? I mean, are you still sticking around with the Knicks? The only team, Ariel, that has not made a statement at all about George Floyd. None. 0.0. Full blue Tarski. Only team in the National Basketball Association to not do anything publicly.
I'm done, Rich.
You are?
I'm done.
You are?
Yeah, I'm done.
I did not expect you to submit. That was a submission. I did not expect that submission from Ariel Helwani. You just tapped out.
Yes, that's right. I tapped out.
Welcome to the club. Welcome.
I'm done, Rich. I am done. I know this is music to your ears.
Yes.
But guess what? I can't support this, right? I can't support it. And those internal emails were disgraceful, laughable. I mean, look, all these corporate statements, for the most part, they're all shallow. They're all very hollow. But you kind of just feel at this point like you got to do it, because if you don't do it, you're the one dissenter. And, of course, it's the Knicks who are the one dissenter. And it's amazing when you have a leader like Greg Popovich who can speak from the heart and actually, connect with people, or Steve Kerr. I mean, those franchises are so lucky. The Knicks are in shambles. And I'm disappointed in what they've become, because I remember them in the 90s. They were a model franchise, and I can't support that anymore. And if I'm being honest, part of the reason why it's easier for me to not support them right now is because, I don't know if you noticed, Rich, I don't know if we've talked since I've done it, maybe once or twice. I've been doing some sideline reporting for the NBA, so I can't be a fanboy. I can't. It's easier for me to take off that
He's
hat
a professional.
Ariel.
I'm a professional, damn it.
Ariel, just let's understand this. You're going to be doing ESPN sideline stuff. How many times are the Knicks on national television anyway? Come on now.
That's right. It's very easy.
You know what I mean? Like you could still do both. I come here every day. I can talk about the Yankees, and everyone knows that I'm a diehard fan of the Yankees. And I can Chris Brockman in the face. He's a big Red Sox guy. I can look him in the face and have a normal conversation. Certainly, no. We could bring up Aaron Boone anytime we want here on the show, because I have the microphone in front of me. No, but I'm serious, Ariel. I'm welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. I know that it's kind of sad though. It makes me a little sad because you're such a diehard Knicks fan. So you're gonna go, get your kids rooting for Durant and Kyrie and go to Brooklyn. Do that. You'll be fine.
I don't know about that. I mean, lest we forget, my friends. Lest we forget that the reigning, defending NBA champion
from your native,
from my home country of Canada, right? So this is a very easy fix. But at the end of the day, and I get your example and your analogy, but I don't eventually, I'm going to be at the NBA Finals doing sideline interviews. Why not me? Why not me, Rich? And so I can't have some coach who, let's say it's, I don't know, let's say it's the Pacers or the Nets in the finals at that point. I can't have him say oh, you're a Knicks guy, you're not going to ask me good questions. No, I have to be a pillar of journalism. I have to be unbiased, and I can't have any preconceived notions attached to me, because when I'm going to waltz in there, the game is going to change.
This one I don't buy. I appreciate you having a principled stand and telling the Knicks to go pound sand. The Knicks will never be in the NBA Finals. Don't worry about it. And nobody really cares. Nobody cares about the fact that the Knicks and you are so tight that the Pacers coach won't listen to you. Nobody in the Eastern Conference. They know that they don't care. You know what I mean?
Well, it really died. I've been holding out these last few years, but 100% the darkest day in the history of the Knicks franchise is when they dragged Charles Oakley out of that arena.
That's when I finally put my foot down. But hey, listen, Ariel, keep crushing it and doing what you're doing. You are the best at what you do, and I appreciate when you answer our call. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you, Rich.
You got
all
it.
the best to you guys, and say hello to Josh for me.
I will do that. There you go.
See you, bud.
Josh Gad. His kid's so excited that Daddy was on before Olaf was. He's such a sweetheart. Not just Ariel Helwani, but Josh Gad. When we come back, don't miss this conversation. It's going to be fun. Oh, gosh. I'm so excited to have Josh Gad on, because what he has done with his YouTube reunions, I cannot imagine the logistics it takes to get like Ian McKellen. Like, when are you free? Because Josh, when are you free? Because Sean Astin is, he can't do it at 1:30 on that time, and you're in London. So when are you free to be Gandalf? What movie would you want to see a reunion?
Oh my gosh!
Like I've got one to request of Josh Gad.
I got one,
and unfortunately, two of the actors have since passed.
I was going to say Varsity Blues.
Come on,
but Paul Walker no longer with us.
Varsity Blues?
That movie is amazing. You're talking about like all-time great movies?
Again, wouldn't you want to have a Shawshank? Stephen King.
Stephen King.
Okay. Morgan Freeman.
Frank Darabont, the director. Stephen King.
Wouldn't you want to? I mean, like, if you're requesting of Josh, Josh is getting some. He's getting like, hey, Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, when are you free? Because Hanks is free here.
The first Jurassic Park was on the other day. That would be a good one.
Goodfellas.
Oh boy,
100%.
It really is amazing what Josh Gad is doing. Well, and again, the Goonies, which I finally got around to seeing, that my children were so friggin' freaked out by. They scared out of their wits, out of their minds.
They're not old enough for What I Willie yet.
To be able to call up, Joey Pants.
Josh Brolin.
When are you guys free? Because Robert Davi's not free until like 3 o'clock on Tuesday. And I'm sure Josh Brolin's like, what is Robert Davi doing? Other than telling somebody to lose the grid or they're going to lose their job and Die Hard. Maybe that's not a bad one for him to do.
Die Hard would be amazing.
Hey, Rich, can I chime in on this?
Yes, sir.
What about The Outsiders? Minus Patrick Swayze, who's gone. You've got Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Emilio,
heavy hitters,
Ralph Macchio,
heavy hitters and Outsiders.
Diane Lane.
These are all requests that we can make of Josh when the NBC audience returns in just a second.
Tom Cruise is probably too busy learning how to do something his next stunt.
But Rob Lowe said Tom Cruise only refers to his movies with one. So is it Out or Siders?
Siders.
Gotta think it's Siders.
Hey, they could do Siders together.
Siders.
Diane Lane, guys. That's the most important thing.
Diane Lane. Has he hit, by the way? He just Diane Lane.
He slides away.
Those like Collinsworth.
He just did a slide.
Oh, my gosh. How much time do we back? All right. The delightful Josh Gad. We'll talk Artemis Fowl. We'll talk Central Park and this amazing YouTube series he's doing. And, of course, his beloved Dolphins in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show, not just to our listeners and viewers on NBCSN and YouTube and Sirius XM Channel 211, but also to this guy who delights me. I find nothing about this man anything but delightful. I love following him on Twitter at Josh Gad and what he does and the happiness he brings to people. Is immeasurable. If only his Miami Dolphins could return the favor. Josh Gad here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Josh?
Oh, that was such a great intro for that Miami Dolphins thing. Such a really lovely introduction, and then you had to go there.
Hey.
You had to foul up my fish.
Now, hold on a second now. Tua's here. Tua's here now. Are you all in on Tua? Like, knock on wood?
Oh, I was part of the Tank for Tua group. I mean, obviously his injuries are cause for slight concern, but I'm all in on Brian Flores. Like,
me too.
There isn't anything that man and his genius approach, I think, is incapable of achieving with this organization. And I say that as somebody who literally had the Dolphins winning maybe one game last season and was as, awestruck and stunned as everybody outside of Miami by what they managed to string together, including that insane win against the Pats.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, Josh, you want to put it all together, tank for Tua. I mean, I was hearing about tanking for Tua for the Miami Dolphins literally when he beat Georgia in the national championship game. And then when it was now time to actually put this plan into place, and it was time to start tanking for Tua, with Brian Flores as their new head coach and then Ryan Fitzpatrick as their quarterback, there was no tanking going on. That's the anti-tank quarterback in the history of anti-tank quarterbacks in Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I know. And yet here we are. And yet somehow, we get Tua, I think, without trading anything in return. It's just such a shocking thought all this time later. Because I remember Dolphins fans were kind of like, we didn't know what to do with their final record, because losing that first pick and losing the opportunity, or so we thought, to get Tua without the first 3 picks was something that I think we were just all like, oh, God. And yet here we are. And I thought the Dolphins just in general had a great draft. I think they're really smart. They're making all the right moves.
And yet,
then again, you could go back and listen to previous interviews you and I have done together, and I probably said the same thing about like Tony Sperano at some point. So I don't know if he's going to end up being.
But you are Josh Gad. You are all about the positive. You're, as I said, you're a delight. You like delighting people. You like being happy. You like being having love in the world. I know this about you. I've seen this about you. And yet, though, the desire to be so absolutely overjoyed out of the spite of beating New England at the end of a season that was otherwise totally lost. I can hear the delight for you to be motivated by that particular piece of spite. I think is exactly what fandom is all about, Josh.
What spite? You mean the spite from the last time we beat them, or the season before when we also beat them in the final seconds of a game that everybody wrote about?
Well,
I don't have any spite. I don't have any overjoy.
But that one didn't cost them eventually, a week off in the playoffs. I mean, yeah. Kind of, yeah. Put it all in motion, and that last loss that the Dolphins stuck it to New England to get them out of a bye week spot, to put them in Foxborough the first week to be one and done by the Titans in Vrabel. That is a particular chef's kiss type of stuff right there for a Dolphin fan, I'd imagine.
It really is, and I apologize for my glee to all the Patriot fans out there, but you have to understand, you've dominated the AFC East for over a decade, and it hasn't just been a domination. It's been the most depressing, feudal existence for a fan ever. Like, Jets, Bills, and Dolphins fans have had to live with Superman in their division for so long that it was only fair to finally overthrow this insanity of a dynasty.
Yes, and then you take a look at it, and then just to, I guess, put it a full circle, a little button on it, the Miami Dolphins are in New England to open the season in 2020. So maybe Tua goes up there, or Fitz magic, works his magic again and starts things off. That would be amazing for you.
I would love for Tua to really get healthy, and there's nothing to win this season. Let's just let's give this kid some time and let Fitz do his thing, and I hope they don't put him out there and destroy him before he has a chance to really come into his own, because it's an unforgiving game, and I want the guy to have every opportunity to honestly become the next Marino, to become the great superstar our city has been longing for my entire lifetime.
Josh Gad here on the Rich Eisen Show. So much going on with your career. I'd love to hit them all with you. Artemis Fowl, Disney fantasy and adventure film, available for streaming this Friday, Disney+. What a cast. You, Judi Dench, Colin Farrell, Kenneth Branagh directs it. What can people expect from this one, Josh?
I think they can expect some great family entertainment to greet them at home. I'm so excited. This movie was originally supposed to be theatrical, and obviously given the state of affairs right now with the ongoing pandemic, I think Disney made a really bold and exciting choice to premiere it on Disney Plus, and it gives everybody a chance to see a really cool adventure film laced with magic based on a series of beloved books by author Owen Colfer. And the movie is tremendous. It's actually the last film I saw on the big screen before I had to shelter in place. I saw a screening of it on the Disney lot, and I could not be more thrilled. I think people are going to get definitely going to get their money's worth. Put it that way.
Yeah.
It's really great.
How does one prepare to play a filthy kleptomaniac dwarf, as you've been described for your character, Josh?
Wow.
How does one prepare for that?
I really immersed myself. Did a lot of watching John Rhys Davies in Lord of the Rings as Gimli.
Nice.
There's a little bit of Hagrid. I like to think of Mulch as Hagrid by way of Han Solo. This guy is a loner. He's sort of out for himself. You can't quite tell what side, if any, he's on, and there's a lot of that sort of like Han Solo roguishness to him. Definitely not the looks. I'm definitely clearly sexier than Harrison Ford in that film. But it's such a great character, such a great film, and I can't wait for everyone to see it this Friday.
Yeah, again, Friday, June 12th is when you could start streaming it on Disney Plus. And then you mentioned Lord of the Rings. Josh Gad, what you are doing on your YouTube stream by getting some of the most iconic films and back together, and the casts back together, is amazing. I cannot imagine how you have been able to pull all of this off. I assume you're getting help to get all these folks together. I mean, Lord of the Rings, Goonies, Back to the Future, Splash. Hey, Ron Howard, are you free when Tom Hanks is free? I mean, like, literally, is that what you're doing to get everybody back together, Josh?
It's a lot of reach out. It's a lot of conversations with a lot of people that I greatly admire, all in the name of charity. The truth is that people clearly have more time on their hands than usual right now, and a Zoom call, if it's an opportunity to raise money for charities like the Center for Disaster Philanthropy or our last one, No Kid Hungry, which we've raised as of today over $140,000.
Amazing.
I think people are really into that idea, and I'm glad that it's providing so many with so much joy at a time when I think people really need it.
It's truly amazing. And is it true your next shot is the Ghostbusters reunion? Is that what you're doing?
Next one is Ghostbusters. We're editing that now, and I could not be more excited for all the surprises in store. And it's going to be hopefully an elixir to these interesting dark times that we find ourselves in, and give people not only an opportunity to laugh and go revisit one of my all-time favorite films, but also raise some money for some incredibly appropriate causes.
All right, so booking Bill Murray is just like, you want to talk about a white whale. I mean, isn't it like you got to call a number? It's like a payphone somewhere and somebody answers it, right? And then they pass the long message to Bill, and Bill's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Is that true? Something like that.
I can't comment because I can't confirm or deny that I got Bill Murray. But what I can tell you is that Bill Murray is one of the most notoriously difficult people to ever book for anything. That is all true. That is absolutely 100% true.
And how do you fit the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man into a Zoom square?
Great question,
Josh.
It's really interesting. He has great internet connection, and he was game. The bigger problem isn't getting him on. Isn't getting him on the square. It's with no fingers. It's very hard. He kept clicking every button on the pad. So that was the toughest part.
So, I mean, like, because you could also go Rick Moranis here, Sigourney Weaver. I mean, I'm locked in on all of these. It's amazing. You got the whole Goonies cast. can I make a suggestion? We've got some requests.
You can always make suggestions. I love Rich Eisen suggestions.
Okay.
What I look for.
I would love to get a reunion of Midnight Run, even though I know a couple.
Yeah, that is a great.
A couple of the actors have since passed, but Yaphet Kotto is 80.
Okay.
You know,
and obviously we still got the two leads. So.
We do. Grodin and De Niro, and I would just love to just get the whole. I don't know how it's not an ensemble like Joey Pants, right? You got him.
Joey Pants, yeah. That's a great suggestion. I hadn't thought of it, and Midnight Run is a perfect film. I think that the really nice part is both Grodin and De Niro seem very approachable. So I'm gonna just take it for granted.
Josh, everyone obviously wants to do it for you. It really is something. I know I just love that movie. I don't know. I would love to know some backstories and have them, you know, to just see what happened.
That's a great suggestion. Give me another suggestion.
Chris, which was another one that you wanted to do?
Well, I wanted to do Varsity Blues.
No, you want to do Shawshank.
Well, Shawshank would be great too.
We could get Stephen King.
All right, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something off the record, which means that only you and everyone who listens to this show can know.
Yes.
I have started reaching out to the cast of Shawshank Redemption to see if there would be any possibility of bringing them together. It is, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies of the last century. But you know, it's these things are really, it's all about the participants and whether or not they want to revisit these films. So I have done the reach out, and hopefully they say yes, because I tend to agree Shawshank would be incredible.
And again, people just go and put Reunited Apart into YouTube, and then that's how they can find everything, correct?
Yeah, you can go to YouTube/Josh Gad to make it easy, and
good.
It's great. The episodes are really great, and doing it for a really good cause.
All right, and then Central Park as the animated musical sitcom that premiered a couple of Fridays ago about a family that lives in Central Park. That looks, to be honest with you, I'm looking at the cast. It looks like half Hamilton, half Frozen, with Leslie Odom Jr., Daveed Diggs, you, and Kristen Bell, just to name four. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and then we obviously had to settle for people like Stanley Tucci, who were in neither of those things, and Catherine Hahn and Titus Burgess.
Yeah, that's okay.
No, it is such a tremendous cast and such a tremendous show. I'm so blessed to call myself a co-creator on it, along with the great Lauren Bouchard, who created Bob's Burgers, and Nora Smith, also from Bob's Burgers. There's just something so joyful about this series, and everyone who's been watching it has been, paying that forward to us and letting us know how much not only the show itself, but the incredible music written by an assortment of geniuses, including Kate Anderson and Elisa Samsel and Brett Knopf and some unbelievable guest composers like Cyndi Lauper, Amy Mann, Rafael Casal. It's a great group, and the show is currently on Apple Plus, and it is a must watch.
Yeah, and Amy Mann, the Magnolia soundtrack is one of the greatest movie soundtracks of all time. And again,
it's so good, and she wrote such a good song. And Sarah Bareilles wrote, I think, a song that like everybody who's watched the show is playing over and over again.
You know, because again, when I saw the cast here again, half Frozen, half Hamilton, I just thought, what if they mixed, right? That a revolution was brought to Arendelle, or when the British when the British were fighting against the colonials, if they just got frozen. Literally, it's not a bad idea. It's also not a great idea. It's just kind of hanging there. Well, Josh, before I let you go, you have been here before, and it's always a delight when you are here. My sound man, my sound engineer, my audio executive, as he likes to be called, Mike Del Tufo, 54-year-old single man or divorced man. From the state of New Jersey.
Michael, unfortunately, I'm married. I'm unavailable.
No.
Congratulations. We'll find you somebody.
No, here's the thing. It's like, what's the oldest Olaf fan you've ever come across? Who's...
Oh, man, I've come across people in their 90s who are Olaf
exactly.
fans. Yeah.
No, like have all the stuffed animals, have all the...
Oh, yeah, you'd be surprised. Olaf connects multi-generationally. I mean... There are people who are in their 80s and 90s who like have Olaf paraphernalia, who let me know how important that character is to them, and I think I think the reason that so many people connect to that little guy is there's a sense of like childlike wonderment that I think a lot of us forget that we have even when we're older, and it reminds us of the purity of looking at the world with our glasses half full optimism that Olaf brings to the table.
Because Mike, do you want to say something to him? I mean, because
it's a great character.
No.
I love the character.
You've got how many Olaf items do you have in your house? What's the grand
I have
total?
the full size one.
Okay.
Then every miniature. I have like the full size one, and then I have multiple. I got a mug. I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably
I'm
6.
I'm gonna have to sign something for you.
Yeah, no,
There
totally.
you go.
So
But I mean,
personalized.
and I have one in the cup holder in the rear of my one car.
That's not weird at all. By the way, that's not a metaphor for anything.
He sits in the back.
He's
my co-pilot.
That feels like a hostage situation. That one I don't know if I approve.
He's my co-pilot.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot before I go. Can you? How would Olaf term the drafting of Tua Tagovailoa to the Dolphins? Can you tell me what Tua thought about that draft, or beating the Patriots and knocking them out of the bye week position? Do you got something for me on that front, Josh Gad?
I love everybody equally, and I would tell you that it never gives me joy to see any team down on its luck, except if that team is the New England Patriots, who've had it coming for a long time. So bye. Have fun in the gutter.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Josh, you're the best, man. You're the best. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's stay in touch, okay?
You're the best. And I'm teasing Pats fans. I love you guys. I just don't like the fact that you win every freaking season.
Take care of yourself, Josh. That is Josh Gad. You got it. At Josh Gad on both Twitter and Instagram. Artemis Fowl this Friday, June 12th on Disney+. Central Park on Apple TV Plus has been available since the final Friday in May. And then go again to youtube.com/Josh Gad. I'm telling you, these reunions are amazing. I do not know. I mean, the thing that's so impressive, the logistics it must take to get everybody to zoom in at the same time.
Oh.
Do you tell Sir Ian? No. Sir Ian, hit. There's a mute. There's a microphone on the bottom. There's a red line through it. We don't hear you, Sir Ian. We don't hear. I mean. And then it's just your video's not on, and it's this big photograph of Gandalf or
with the
from X-Men. He's Magneto, right?
Yeah, Magneto.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's hard to do 2 or 3 people. Forget a film cast.
It's hard to get your friends on.
Exactly.
I mean,
I had no idea Olaf was just not a fan of the Patriots.
Everybody kind of knows.
I
This
thought
guy's
he
like
liked
the best.
everybody. I thought that's the point of the guy.
Olaf's like.
My
he doesn't like the Patriots.
I got a big kick out of that.
Whatever.
844-204-RICH. Your phone calls in a moment. Oh, here's a good one from our friends in the wormhole. St. Elmo's Fire would be a really good one.
Pretty in Pink.
No, hold on a second. Let's stick here. So St. Elmo's Fire means you're getting Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Jim Belushi, right? Elizabeth Perkins, correct? Right? Wasn't she? She was Demi Moore's friends who thought Jim Belushi was
Andrew
Judd
McCarthy.
Right, not Judd Hirsch.
Judd Hirsch from
not Judd Hirsch.
You could do a taxi one, I guess.
Judd Nelson.
Judd Nelson, thank you. Hi, Judge Hirsch. Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it sounds like Pulp Fiction.
That's a great one.
As you could see, some of these.
But Andy McDowell, Ali Sheedy.
I guess Lord of the Rings is the only one that isn't, a laugh riot. Pulp Fiction is just like, okay, so Ving, why don't you tell me where did you have to go as an actor?
When the GIMP.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Bring out the GIMP.
When you revoked somebody's Los Angeles privileges, Ving, where did you go as an actor?
With the GIMP.
Did you call Ned Beatty for advice?
I mean.
Wow.
Rich.
Yes.
Whoa.
Everybody.
Rich.
Now,
Whoa,
people,
Rich.
excuse me. People have to connect the pop culture dots here.
Wow.
Okay. I didn't.
No, I mean.
You guys got it. Some people will have to just Google it.
Squeal.
Spoiler alert.
Wow.
Pulp Fiction wouldn't be a bad one.
No, it'd be a great. Those guys would be
The key to making these things really good,
Reservoir Dogs.
is to pick
See,
movies that
any of
have
them.
big
Anyone.
ensemble casts.
Well, sure. That's why Midnight Run might not work because, two of the actors have since passed. Dennis Farina, who played
It's the
Serrano.
Arguably the funniest part of that movie.
Okay. And Sidney, the actor, was it Philip, not Seymour Hoffman, but I forget his name. The actor who also played.
In Boogie Nights.
He was in Boogie Nights.
One of the greatest roles.
He was the game show host in Magnolia, and for Seinfeld fans, he was the librarian
Philip
policeman.
Baker Hall.
Philip Baker Hall.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's the one who went and got the library book back, right, from Seinfeld?
Yes. He's still alive.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Is he? God bless. So Sidney's still alive. I'd love to hear
Go
from
have
him.
a go of a ginger ale.
He's 89.
That's one of the greatest losses.
Sidney, go have a cream soda before I bury this phone in your head.
So good.
Marvin Dorfler's still around.
He's still around. John Ashton.
Joe Pat. Yeah.
Oh, Stipe's ready to come back. This is good. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. We talked about it, Jim, with Ariel Helwani earlier in the hour. Stipe Miocic said, the time has come. Who's ready? DC.
He said.
And Cormier's like LFG. Oh, yeah, just like your Patriots right there.
Ariel said August.
I love Daniel Cormier. He's really one of my favorite guests that I've gotten to meet on this show.
Their two fights have been awesome.
Is that shot of Stipe Miocic when he was coming out for Maffei in my my appearance for Billions?
Episode? I don't know. Someone just tweeted us Untouchables.
Oh, that would. Well, I don't know if Sean Connery would be up for zooming.
He doesn't do a lot
There's no chance he knows how to zoom.
Welcome to the Zoom.
Welcome to the
That's
Zoom.
not bad, right? That was my Celebrity Jeopardy version.
Okay, you gotta cut that.
Welcome to the Zoom.
The Rock would be an awesome one.
I mean, I'm looking in our wormhole on our YouTube
Con Air
stream.
would be
There have
great.
been some
Con Air would be
really
a great
excellent suggestions to Major League Avengers Endgame reunion. Well, I mean, not much of a reunion of a movie that was, a year old, right?
Yeah. Con Air would be tight.
Pulp Fiction reunion. A Pretty Woman reunion.
League of Their
That's
Own?
not a bad one.
It's another good one.
You know,
Yeah, because Jason Alexander plays his dirtbag friend.
Right? That's not a
Pretty
bad
Woman
one.
would be good.
So he's got Ghostbusters. He's got Bill Murray. Okay, we all know it.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Rick Moranis. I think Ernie Hudson passed away. Did he pass away? I feel this is terrible. By the way,
Hold on.
He might have just killed Ernie Hudson.
I don't mean.
I know you think you did, Rich. Hang on.
You know, I remember that one time I was sitting at home watching SportsCenter.
Wikipedia says he's still alive.
Ernie Hudson is alive. My God, why am I
74?
Then let's go get him. Or maybe Josh already did. I remember I was sitting at home one time. I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. I didn't do the late night SportsCenter one night, but I had my day off or whatever. So I'm sitting at home. I'm watching the 1 a.m. SportsCenter or whatever. And Stuart Scott went on the air, and he said, as the late great Richard Pryor once said, and Richard Pryor was not dead yet. He was still alive. And I remember calling the control room and getting the control room saying, did Richard Pryor die? Because this is,
back no Twitter.
I didn't have my phone.
Yeah, it was a phone.
So I snapped open my flip phone and called, the control room.
Flip phone.
To say, is Richard Pryor dead? And you could hear the producer, nope, he's alive, and we're going to have to fix that later.
Stay after.
So literally at like 3:10 in the morning, everybody's like this on the crew. And Stewart had to be awake and go, hey, and redo his lead-in. Yeah, man. That's the way it used to be. So I guess I shouldn't be opining about this stuff.
No, let's just confirm before people.
Before saying that.
But
Ghostbusters, not a bad one.
I hope
Annie Potts.
William Atherton is on. That guy's great.
Annie Potts does the commercial now that she's like in the
Rick
desk.
Moranis is another guy who's
fantastic.
just tapped out.
Yeah.
Like he did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and then See Ya. So it'd be great to see him. This will be fun.
That will be great.
Even though I would still take Trading Places over that.
Oh, I can't believe it.
And that's fair. You can't really go wrong.
You can't go wrong with those. Yeah, it's true.
All right, let's go to Dana in Seattle, Washington. Let's take your phone call here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Dana?
Well, I'm just about had it with you guys beating up Drew Brees, and I got no horse in the race. I'm in Seattle.
Okay.
So my boy is Russell Wilson. But could you lead the parade on this? Because you need to take the foot off his throat.
Oh, my foot's not on his throat, Dana, and I appreciate your passion, but my foot's not on his throat. I said nothing but I said he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. I said I've never seen him do anything other than the greatest things for his community. But I was disappointed that he did not hear what many of his teammates were trying to communicate back in 2016 and 2017. He clearly heard from them. He has since had a conversation with his teammates, and I gave him kudos for it. I don't think my foot's on his
Well,
neck.
that's why I'm calling you, because you've been the best of, and I'm talking about across the board with you talking heads. Beating him up like this. And then, and I don't know if it's for the Twitter followers, because I talk to people, 35 to 55, not Twitter tahandlers.
Yes.
And they all agree that enough's enough. And then you criticize his apology.
No, I didn't.
And the guy changes 2 words in that sentence. And
oh, I didn't criticize. I gave him credit for his apology, and I thought.
I just want you to keep going with it. Then.
Okay.
I just want you to keep going with it, because they're still piling on, man, and it's just enough's enough with this guy.
Dana,
he has done, way too much to continue this. So I'm glad that things are turning around for him. And
for sure,
if you're going to be the head
and I hope
that's great.
You got it, Dana. And look, just I don't know if this is the first time you've ever taken in this show or whatever, but I have a body underneath my talking head. I have a whole body.
Well, does it have arms and legs?
Yes.
Hey.
Thanks for the call, Dana. It's Dana in Washington. Talking head. Am I? I don't know if am I too sensitive on the subject? He almost did it with all due respect to you and your talking head. Hey, this is an emotional time, clearly, It's an emotional time. And we all just got to, come together, right? And that's part of the thing that I like talking to Josh about what he's doing online. And I know it's just pop culture, and I know it's not part of the real world in many ways, but it is an escape for us all to just kind of enjoy. Let's go to Bernard in Florida. I've got about a minute. What's up, Bernard?
Hey, Rich. I watched the show a lot, first-time caller.
Thanks for calling.
First thing I want to say is I'm going to throw your pop movie out there.
Okay.
Weird Science.
Weird Science. That.
Good
Look
one.
up the cast there, Chris.
It's a good one.
Look up the cast
Bill
there.
Paxton not being with us, though.
Okay, that's what I want to say. I want to make sure I go through the cast before I say anything else.
Bill
But that's not a
Paxton
bad one.
passed away.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I really like that movie, too. Kelly LeBrock, that was my favorite part.
Come on.
But anyway.
Robert Downey Jr.'s in that movie, too.
What else is on your mind, Bernard?
All right. First thing I want to talk about is, I relate to your last caller really quick. I am an African-American male, and I am a Buccaneer fan. Drew Brees, to me, is probably one of the most upstanding players that I have seen play. I don't think he has a racist bone in his body. He does a lot for his community, and I think that with his statement, what he made, maybe taking, I don't think he probably just took the time to really, just think it out before he said it. But, for me, I look past that because he's just a great overall guy. The point I want to make in regards to the NFL about these players kneeling is a friend of mine, we were talking today, and he made a suggestion. He said, hey, look, what the NFL should do is if a player wants to come out of the locker room during the national anthem, he should be allowed to. If he doesn't want to come out, he should be allowed to stay in. You know, I think that's good because you have different walks of life when it comes to the flag. As Drew Brees said about his father and his grandfather serving in the military, you know, it's differently if you're sitting next to, let's say, a mom that has a son that was killed by law enforcement that may have the innocent, and she decides not to stand for the flag. That's her own,
correct.
You know, what she went through.
Right, Bernard, and I don't mean to cut you off, even though I just did because we got about a minute to go. I appreciate you calling in. So
go ahead. I'll hang up and I'll just listen.
I appreciate that. No, I just want to say, again, I want to get to a point where I can stand for the national anthem and tell my children to stand for the national anthem and take their hands, put them over their hearts and take their hats off, and that I am not viewed as being ignorant to why somebody's kneeling. And we are not looking at someone who's kneeling and saying that they are anything but being a patriot and trying to express what they're expressing. Let's get to that point. And again, because that's what this show is about, we make a turn. Weird Science is not a bad idea. Don Bowie just came up with a great ending, great final. Fast Times at Ridgemont High would be a great Josh Gad
Professor
reunion.
Hand, is he?
Well, I mean, obviously you get Sean Penn, but Judge Reinhold, and it's not happening unless Phoebe Cates says yes. If she says no, then I'm thoroughly uninterested in the rest of the proceedings. Fact. Thanks to Steve Wyche, Peter King, Ariel Helwani, and Josh Gad. That's it for this Monday edition of The Rich Eisen Show. We will see you on Tuesday on our YouTube stream, SiriusXM Channel 211, and NBCSN.